Howdy, ho, 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 my good humans. How the hell are you doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I'm Brandon Sylvia. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Joined today, as always, by Loon in the building for the weekly breakdown of the news and the game discussion and all of that good shit. Loon, how you holding up, man? You hanging in there?
Yeah, not too bad. Was you put in a few of the news article things, and it seemed a little bit light, and then it started trickling in on like the final day. So it
Yeah,
looked like it was going to be another light news week, and then they seemed to land on Friday.
yeah, which is nice for us, but I should go ahead and uh just be a bit upfront with the audience there that I haven't had quite as much time to prepare this week's show. So a lot of this stuff I'll kind of be on the fly uh reading over and reacting to, and we'll kind of just discuss it, shoot from the hip and give our kind of raw first take. Because like Loon said, a lot of the news this week broke today, and I've just had no time at all this morning to really get everything prepared. So we'll just kind of read over it together, have sort of some real time reactions, and yeah, man, this is uh kind of an exciting in terms of games played. You got a big, you knocked off a trophy. You knocked off a big kill from your list. The a game you've been powering through for a while, and you finally finished it, if I'm not mistaken. Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. So I think last week that I was deep into it, and it was definitely going to be the campaign that I go through and finish up. I was enjoying the character, and yeah, I think it was either 2 days ago. Ended up finishing it up. Um, I think I wrote it down. It was a long one. My goodness. It was 95 hours.
Damn. And that is for the one playthrough or for all of your playthroughs combined?
No, just for that one playthrough.
Oh boy. Yeah, that is hefty. That is hefty, hefty. Um, all right. So let's start off. I want to ask you out the gate.
Mhm.
First off, what was your game of the year for 2023?
I think I said it was Baldur's Gate 3 is what it felt like it forced my arm. Even because even in that small segment, I knew because I played the little slivers of it, and I just knew it was going to be something special. But I said if Baldur's Gate didn't come out, I think I said Lies of P.
Okay.
I think if I
So
wasn't mistaken.
after finishing Baldur's Gate 3, looking back in retrospect, hindsight being what it is, would you now place Baldur's Gate 3 as your game of the year for 2023 for sure?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
It's it's so it's so hard to put into words. Like the passion and the product value that they have in that game is it really is like you've heard it time and time again. It's unprecedented. Especially, they went toe to toe with AAA and they doubled down on it and they just delivered on almost everything. I have obviously a few complaints as well, like like nothing's perfect. And it's a lot of it is also personal preference as well as to what I prefer from like CRPGs and also what they originally came from because they changed a lot in Baldur's Gate 3. Is there anything that you wanted to ask like specifically as well
No, well,
to
go ahead and hit some of your critiques or, throw out some praise wherever you want to begin with the discussion.
um so the first con is when you think of like RPGs and stuff, you think like leveling and getting more and more skills. The level cap is 12. That you only get to level 12 and that's crazy to me because it was, don't get me wrong, I hit because the game breaks up into three acts. And I did hit level 12 about three-quarters of the way through Act 3. So it wasn't like I hit the max level in Act 2 and then Act 3 felt like there was no progression and stuff. But when I did hit it, and I leveled up, and I was like, oh, how much is it going to be for the next XP like level? And I saw like the bar already full, and I was like, wow, did I like overlook a level and I've already leveled up again? And no, that was it. And it really kind of felt like a gut punch because it was like, okay, so all of these things that I'm doing now,
Are
it's
for
not going to be
nothing.
really rewarding as much.
So when you're three-quarters of the way through Act 3, is that like, are there still things to go and find off the beaten path? And like, so when you hit, I guess what I'm saying is when you hit, three-fourths of the way through Act 3 or wherever, uh, were you still, or were you mainlining at that point, or were you still kind of trying to do a bunch of side content? And
It it's funny because that's what caused me to mainline.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because I hit that point and I was like, because don't get me wrong, obviously there's so much in the game as well. And it's not only the level of your character that dictates how powerful you are, it's also the gear that you find. But doing so much through Act 1 and Act 2, you get so much powerful gear that even the stuff that you're finding in like Act 3 is like the equivalent, like, because it's broken up into acts. So it's legendary gear in Act 1, you get stronger legendary gear in Act 2 and stuff. I really didn't feel like there was that big of a jump. So there wasn't even that much of like a push either, because the stuff that I was finding in Act 3 was like, okay, it also, because it's class specific as well, not everything was appealing to the class that I was using. So like for instance, I didn't find any um legendary daggers and stuff for my main rogue character for the longest time. So it just felt like, okay, I'll just deal with what I've got and primarily just use the skills and stuff.
Yeah, it was whenever I maxed in DD2 Dragon's Dogma 2, whenever I maxed out my thief, that was kind of the same thing, the same mindset for me. I was like, well, I'll just power through the main story now because
Mm,
like I know I can go back later and do all these different classes that I would like to try, but at this point like I'm cool with the build I have now. I'm comfortable with this play style. I'll just power through it. And so there is something, I don't know, like it's nice to have a quicker level up system so that you can access cool shit, but at the same time, like if what was it ever, did you get to a point when you were level 12 where you were like, okay, this just isn't challenging at all?
it wasn't challenging from like level 3,
Oh,
I would
really?
say. Yeah. Like it's kind of like how CRPGs ramp. You never you never hit the end of the game and have, unless you're playing obviously on the hardest difficulty and stuff like that, you get such like an array of skills and so much power and gear. It really does. You just start brutally kicking things heads in like consistently. Especially like one of the party members is a fighter. She gets so many attacks. Like usually with turn-based CRPGs, it's action point economy. So you have to be like, okay, I only get like two attacks this turn. She was getting like fully buffed and everything. I was getting her to do like 10 to 12 attacks.
Wow.
She was absolutely slaying the field because you there was a massive like mini boss and she almost like solo like one turned it on her own and it was just like holy shit, you really are like unbalanced. My God.
That's crazy. So did you played through the whole thing on normal?
I think it was the one below normal.
Oh, so it's kind of like The Witcher where it's like the absolute easiest, then the one before, or the one before normal and then normal. So there's like five different.
I think there's four difficulty
Okay,
levels if I'm remembering correctly.
nice,
So yeah,
nice. Yeah,
or
so
five, yeah, four or five.
I can drop it to the absolute uh baby mode on there and fucking power through it. Dude, I'm actually, I don't know. I mean, I'll obviously I start off all my games on normal, and then if I just turn-based, I have a really hard time getting adjusted to. and grasp and getting an understanding of. So it's nice to know that I can just kind of drop that bitch and experience the story. Um,
For 90% of it. There are
yeah,
some encounters where the game's like, no, you play by my rules as
yeah,
well. You need to interact with. But to be fair, what I can say about that is the majority of that is optional stuff. So if you hit that like thing and you're like, I'm not enjoying it, you can just be like, well, I'll just skip this encounter then.
yeah. I have trouble with difficult turn-based battles where I just get to a point where I'm like, I don't care about this combat system at all. Like, why am I continuing to do this when I have zero investment in this combat system? So the thing that I wonder the most about this game, the most common criticism that I heard about Baldur's Gate 3 is that Act 3 is like rough around the edges. Is it still rough around the edges, or has most of that been cleaned up?
In what sense, like performance wise or content wise?
Performance wise, in terms of bugs and
No, I didn't run into any bugs, no performance drops. What I did
nice.
notice is I'm trying to be very, very particular with my words here as to not spoil anything. So Act 1, you can definitely feel that because it was the thing that people had early access to. I don't think you could get out of Act 1 in the early access. So it was the thing that so many people had access to, so they were constantly giving feedback and they were tweaking, adding, changing and stuff. So it's the most, I would say, expansive act with how many branching paths and the amount of areas that you get to explore and stuff like that. And then it's very weird because you can kind of begin Act 2, but you can go back to Act 1's areas, and then you can't at the same time in some aspects, and it's very weird like that. But once you go into Act 3, you can't go back to Act 1 and 2, I believe. It's and that is another criticism. I cannot, I do not like that. I don't like they did that in the Divinity games as well. I don't like points of no return.
Are they clear about it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool. That's at least good.
yeah. But it's like that thing of because if you were powering through it, which I guess it would be that's your choice and reap the consequences of your actions. But if you powered through it and you got into them next areas, you overwrite your saves and you're severely underleveled and underpowered.
Mm.
You'd be like, oh my God, this because it there are some encounters, especially in Act 2, especially with the way the map is. It's got like an environmental effect kind of thing. It can be a very big scare to people who haven't tried like CRPGs and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, there's a lot of mechanics going on here, and if you're not paying attention and stuff, and if you've underleveled, it's gonna be a slog.
What level can you get to by the end of Act 1? Or what level did you get to by the end of Act 1? I guess is maybe a more fitting question.
I think I was in the range of like 4 and 5.
Okay, cool. So you said level 3 and above, you're good from that point.
Yeah, on the difficulty that I was playing on. It's because you have by that point of hitting level 3, you probably would have come across 90% of your party that you have access to.
Cool. Okay.
So you have all these characters that fulfill a specific role that you would need to fulfill. So you have obviously like mage characters and stuff that can do because you have characters that don't take as much damage or don't take any damage from a certain type of damage type. So you need to have a wide party, as it were.
Nice. Okay, cool. I'm excited, man. I don't know when the hell that copy's gonna get in the mail, but I'm damn excited to check it out. And I'm hoping that the version I get is the version you've been playing since you're saying that you really didn't run into any performance or bug related issues. I'm damn excited to because I know that pretty much everybody talked about Act 3 being a slog compared to Act 1 and 2 in terms of technical problems. So the fact that they cleaned that up, I'm really pumped about that.
Content wise, the Act Three, it felt like a letdown.
Oh,
I
really?
weren't, mm, like the ending was good. Don't get me wrong. There's obviously I think there's like three or four main set endings, and then they sat there and boasted about 1,000 or something different types of endings, variations and stuff. But I think there's like three or four main stay endings, and the one that I got was like the standard generic good ending, and it felt good and interesting. But I don't. The Act Three felt so rushed.
Hmm.
Like it's I guess that's the double-edged sword of running it into early access and only giving like Act One for so long is that you polish Act One so much and you put so much time into it. And then Act Two feels like, okay, we need to get things going. And then Act Three is like, okay, we need to wrap things up. It's like over 100 hours now for most people. Like they're not
Yeah.
going to be invested in this. So it's a really big lurch because it's so slow at setting up in Act One. Then the things start coming into pieces, and then it's like, yeah, here's the main villain, and then boom, climax, and it's like, okay, that was very, very abrupt. Okay.
Nice. Yeah, that's I'm not the biggest fan of early access, and I understand why especially smaller developers or publishers do it, but that just seems like kind of a natural issue that you're going to run into where the content that you're giving players access to is going to be the constant, feedback that you're getting, and then that's going to be the stuff that you prioritize cleaning up. And then it's like, okay, if that's only the first third of the game, you still got two-thirds left to go, and you're getting no feedback on it.
And I love Larian, of course, but that's my biggest problem with them as a studio, is that since they did this Kickstarter thing, they've fallen prey to that in every single game. Divinity Original Sin 1 did the same thing and it fell prey to the same problems. Divinity Original Sin 2 fell even worse into that problem where it was really, really strong act one, and the ending act was also really, really wobbly and rushed. And yeah, that's the same with Baldur's Gate 3. To a lesser extent, I'd say it's in a better state than Original Sin 2 was, in my opinion. And I think they said they're doing like one last like patch for the game because apparently the evil endings were kind of very lackluster. So they've overhauled them and stuff like that. So for those that want to go down that route, it'll be a little bit more rewarding. And it does look really cool. I don't know if you've seen the teaser of it.
Mm-mm.
The They only showed like a 5 second snippet, but it looked really, really dark and it was like, holy shit.
Nice, dude. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, other than that, like obviously it's just the standards. Like it's a really good game, quality really good. Most of all the companions are excellent as well. All of their quests are really, really intriguing and cool. Um, I just wish as well they would overhaul their AI and stuff where they'd have a little bit more. When it's not the people you're controlling, they have very little like trying to think of the word. They don't
It-
value their lives. So when you're trying to do these quests and stuff, they um they have a tendency to think that they're God's gift and will run into a group of like 8 enemies in melee combat as like a mage and obviously die. And it's just like, look, man, I don't like reloading saves, but like you're really making this difficult for me to want like I want to see the outcome of these quests and stuff, and I had to it
Oh,
really annoyed me.
you gotta keep them alive to see the outcome.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it really annoyed me to find out that because I don't like doing that because it feels cheap.
I'm the same way.
And after doing that, I think it was like 2 times I did that in like the first act. I didn't do it in the second act, only to learn that that was probably the biggest mistake I could have done. Like a major character, like has really shit AI, ends up dying, and it cost me a companion in Act 3.
Oh,
A
Jesus.
fan favorite companion in Act 3. It's the one that I was
Uh,
looking forward to the whole time, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. That
Golly.
that did get under my skin a lot when I'd learned that because I was like, I know you're in the game, and I was like, look, man, I'm like almost finished with the game. I just want to see you. And I went and looked up online. It was like, yeah, if this person dies in Act 2, they just won't appear in Act 3. And I was like, oh, even if I wanted to reload that save, I don't even have it from like 30 hours ago.
Jesus. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of the punishment and the reward at the same time in a weird way. It's like you want to know that the things you do actually do
Mm,
have consequences. So it's I mean, I know it's like a bummer, but at the same time, is it kind of satisfying to be like, damn, I was so invested and now it's pulled from me. And it's like I feel
yeah,
even more connected in a weird way to, make sure I'm doing the right thing or trying to make all the right decisions going forward.
yeah, no, that's the beauty of CRPGs and stuff. They will happily slap you in the face, and you as the player, you just have to take that slap. Like it felt really bad because it was one of the I had it spoiled that that character was in the game, so I knew that that was like the carrot on the end of the stick, as it were. Like, oh, can't wait to see you again. And then to not have it as a payoff, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it also doesn't help that that's my favorite character in D&D.
Ooh. So where do you stand after finishing it? I know that we joke about numbers not mattering, but I think numbers are always fun. On the Loon scale out of 10, if you need to use decimals, go ahead. What would you say Baldur's Gate 3? Where would you rank that at?
Ooh, I'm like
Actually,
visualizing each act.
let me set this up for you first. What would you give The Witcher 3?
Oh God. Probably like a 9.4.
What would you give Redfall?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I want to know the spectrum here that I'm working with.
I don't think you quite understand like how much I have uh, like a one. Like I'm not even joking. Like I know that sounds like the throwing the toys out. Like nothing about that game
Yeah.
was of any like I just don't respect it at all. Like it would have been immediately bumped up to a six, right? If it had normal fucking cutscenes.
Hmm.
It just had no respect for the player at all. Like
That was
no quality at all.
that was so wildly
Yeah.
disrespectful. I
So I
was
had no
astonished.
respect. Yeah, it was like, okay, slideshows. You're talking like I get it, it's not the not the main arcane team, but you can't even give me takedown animations and stealth.
Yeah.
What is this, honestly?
Okay, so we know that The Witcher 3 is a 9.4. And so I guess that's a good range of a scale right there from top to bottom. Where does Baldur's Gate 3, where would you slot that in, numerically speaking?
Oh, 9.2.
Oh, okay. See, that's good. I'm very glad that we went with that Witcher comparison. So you would drop it a little bit lower than The Witcher.
Yeah, because like
Is it just a preference thing? Like you prefer the
I've
real time?
I've no. I wouldn't say that. It also takes into like how much of an impact the game's had as well. And The Witcher
Hmm.
is obviously it's got so many years ahead of it. It's had so much more of an impact and influence on stuff. Um, I love Larian, but again, like what I would say is that being a 9.2, like Pathfinder 9.3, Pillars 9.4.
Okay. So
Um,
definitely in that upper echelon of RPG, but maybe the ending not having quite as much punch, or not the ending, but the final act not having quite as much punch as something like those other games that kind of pulls it back, even though it's in the same company.
Yeah, I'm not even like un it just felt rushed more than anything, that final act. Don't get me wrong, there's really rewarding stuff in that final act. It's especially with some of the choices and stuff. Um, one of the coolest soundtracks for a boss fight in that final act as well, if you choose to do that, which is really, really cool.
Whoa. Well, I guess I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to know, but that's even that the wording that you just used there kind of has me interested. If you choose to do that,
Well, yeah, that's everything in Baldur's Gate is a choice.
but didn't you say final boss?
Oh, did I say final boss?
I
My
think
bad,
you
my
might.
bad,
You,
my bad,
I'm
my
not.
bad. That was
Okay,
probably
okay.
a poor choice of words. No,
Like
like an optional boss.
okay, Act Three optional. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, whoa, choose to fight the final boss. Now you got me. I love that shit. Like in
Oh no, you
like
can. Yeah, that's another. Yeah, you can choose.
so you
Just
can like
submit.
talk your way out of things and
I mean, you could just submit and just let the world burn if you wish.
oh
So that's
yeah, I
that's
love that
just
shit.
a Larian thing as well. Like that's the same with like the original Sin. I think original Sin 2 had that as well, where it's like any of the three things, like obviously good, neutral, bad, and stuff, where you just be submitting and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I remember. uh, I won't go into much detail, but in a Fallout game, like that final kind of, you can make that final decision and yeah, and do some
Speech,
negotiating. Yeah, and
speech being king in Fallout and just being able to talk your way out of literally anything.
my I always max out my speech. Like that's my favorite number one, hands down favorite thing in RPGs, just maxing that shit out and being able to kind of politic my way out of shit. I fucking love that in RPGs. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about that.
And you can do that for, I think you can do it in every encounter. If I'm being
Nice.
100% honest, like as long as you approach it in the correct manner and stuff like that. But there's obviously a ton of persuasion, deception, and stuff like that, skill checks where you're rolling dice and everything. So yeah, that's a major point of the game. It doesn't always have to end in combat.
I love that. I love that so, so damn much, man. I'm gonna try to get into the combat, but I'm pretty positive that I'm not gonna be like head over heels for the combat system. Who knows? I could be wrong. Every now and then there's just one of those games that kind of breaks through to the other side. Uh, this could be that, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm there for the story, just like the Dragon Age games, and yeah, there for the story. Even though the combat probably won't speak to me, but I'm pumped for that damn story.
Yeah, the one of the complaints I remember you dropping that you'd heard of is like the really long slogging boss battles and stuff and encounters. Oh my God, Act 3.
Oof,
Oh my God. Um, yeah, the it's like a battle of attrition, that final fight. So just be prepared for that. Like my piece of advice would be when you know that you're going to be going, just make sure you just zip around as many of the vendors as you can and just buy up all the health potions and stuff that you can
good old
because
RPG tropes.
they give you there's these like little healing station kind of things that are related to the enemy type, and I think they give you two of them in the point of no return, and they're fairly spaced out, and there's like really big battles and stuff
What are
in
we
between
talking
them.
time wise? Like for that final battle, 30 minutes.
Um,
I can do 30. I can't do like an hour.
it depends on how you approach it. Is the thing like with if you're not paying attention and you're not like taking in everything, it it could last forever. Um, so again, the piece of advice I'd be just bulldoze through the objective. You'll know when you're at like the final precipice. Don't bother killing everything. It's a complete waste.
Yeah, just getting your health
Do
lower for
what
no
you need,
reason.
do what you need to do and get it over and done with because that is a slog, that final fight.
Yeah. I shall keep that in mind, man. I'm anxious and also at the same time highly anticipating it. So,
Have you never played a CRPG then before? Or would the
um,
closest thing be because Dragon Age Origins was
played that,
very, very like inspired by like CRPGs.
played and finished that. I not in this vein really. I because I've never owned a computer. Like as a kid, I never owned a computer. And a lot of those games for a long time were, only on PC. And then you had like Divinity, Pillars, and I played, like Disco Elysium, which I know that's a totally different type of CRPG, whatever you want to call it, adventure game, kind of more in that realm. Um, but no, not nothing to this degree for sure. Well, I played about 7, 8, maybe less than that, 5, 6 hours of Wasteland 3. So kind of in that
It's a really,
space.
really strong game that as well.
Yeah.
It probably has the one of the best ways of speeding up combat in a turn-based CRPG, where you do, I think it's you do all your
All
stuff
your, yeah.
and then they do theirs, which is really good at speeding up because then you can just burst enemies down and make their rounds shorter than yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed what I played of it. I actually played a little bit of it this year, just kind of getting my feet wet for BG3 in preparation for that. But yeah, no, I'm anything turn-based at all. I'm usually not really, that's just not my preferred method of combat, but I'm usually open to it. So like I'll try out, what did I play last year? I played Thirsty Suitors. I really enjoyed the shit out of that on Game Pass. I was turn-based. I was actually like in my top 10, I think, or maybe top somewhere around my top 10 favorite games of last year. I loved that combat system. Like Sea of Stars, I played a little bit of, so I'll dabble with turn-based combat. It just never really quite clicks for me. Like I never get over that hurdle where I'm like, I'm having a really good time with this. I always have a hard time getting super like invested in turn-based combat.
No, it is definitely acquired taste, and it's yeah, because you say you play on like a normal TV as well, right?
Hmm.
That's probably going to be a hard hurdle to get over with CRPGs because there's so many things that are really, really tiny.
Oh boy.
So you're talking like you're walking through obviously you're zoomed out, you walk through the environment. Every time you take a step, your character's rolling a perception check in the background to try and like automatically spot traps for you, which you then have to stop, find where that trap is, and then manually disarm it. So
Brother.
I think that's and that's what I mean. This is why like I love CRPGs, but this is coming from somebody who plays on a monitor and has played a lot of them. So these type of things that, I just take as second nature. I can just see I also can see it will piss people off that aren't in
Yeah.
that space a lot.
I'm at the point where I'm committed to at least give it a good run. Like if it gets to the point where I'm just like, yo, that I can't see what the hell's going. Like if it's things like, because I'm not gonna buy a monitor and set up a whole different, for one game. Like I will never play video games that way ever. And I understand why people prefer it, but man, chilling on a couch with a controller in my hand, like it's just it's a relaxing it's something I've been doing my entire life. Like it's just so much more relaxing to me. Um, but if I'm committed to at least, I think earlier in the year I said I was committed to 30 hours for Baldur's Gate 3. I was like, I'm gonna give it 30 hours, see if it, in that time, if it clicks, I'll keep going. If not, I'll bounce out. If in the first 10 hours it's like one of those things, one of those issues where I just can't see shit, then it's like, all right, I'll throw my hands up with it. But I'm hoping that won't be the case because I definitely want to see what everybody else sees in the game. And I think regardless, I'll be able to see that. It's like with Elden Ring. You know what I mean? I'm able to, for my 5 hours I played Elden Ring, I'm like, oh yeah, this shit's Tears of the Kingdom. Like, oh, this shit's super fucking sick. I just don't want to play on the Switch Elden Ring. This shit's super fucking sick. I just don't want to get brutalized. Like I can kind of appreciate things without necessarily having to it be for me. I've never really understood those type of people who like they won't like something themselves and then they'll just shit on it. Like that's never been my lane. Like I can understand it's not something's not for me and then also understand the like inherent value of it to a lot of other people. Like you can see quality.
Yep.
It's like fucking listening to like Thank You Scientist. Have you ever heard of that band?
No.
Um Dream Theater? Well, it's like listening to a band who's just like technically so proficient. Like they're so
Mm.
so fucking good. Eminem is
Yep.
actually a really good example of it. Eminem is such a great lyricist, but some people might not want to listen to that fucking I mean it's oppressive, like vulgar to the highest degree. Like I love it. But a lot of people are probably they could probably go, "Hey, the lyricism on offer here is second to none. But I don't want to hear another word about, the dog with a spiked collar hollering at it because the son of a bitch. And I get that. And so I don't know. I kind of that's sort of where I fall, but I could never be the type of person who goes, Eminem fucking sucks because I don't like it. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Yeah. No, there's definitely going to be thing because you're a big story person. The story is incredible.
I'll put up with dog shit to get through a great story.
Like, it's a really cool build up if you can get invested in it and you're like rattling off all of these avenues and stuff. And like I said, the companions as well, they didn't skimp on them. There's some really, really cool things that you can get into with the companions and stuff. And just funny encounters as well. Just hilarious encounters. Because Divinity also did it with like because you can speak to animals, for instance. So if you don't have like a druid in your party that has that ability, or you haven't drunk a potion, an animal will just be an animal. You'll like go up to it, interact, and it will just like chirp or whatever. You chug a potion, and they'll have stuff that they're talking about, and they're doing their own thing, and they might even be like giving you hints during quests and stuff like that. Or they're even like they can they're really complex. Some of them is quite funny, and just having that extra layer on is like really cool and stuff like that. Instead of it just being like humans and stuff like that, you can interact with animals, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's fucking sick, dude. But yeah, so is that you have any other bullet points you wanted to hit before we wrap up the BG3 review discussion, the final solidified
Um,
loon review?
no, I think that'd be it. Just get the copy in your hands ASAP. Come on,
Yeah,
Larry,
I
and
know,
give it a
man.
shot.
Yeah, I think that hopefully they're lining up perfectly for me. I'm kind of thinking it might drop at that perfect time where there's really not a whole lot coming out because we're about to get into a real lull for a few months here. So I am looking forward to it indeed.
So, what about yourself? What have you been playing and beating?
I have finished. So I played Mafia 2. I finished Mafia 2. I went back to that because we talked about Mafia last week, and there was just like Mafia 2 is the one I've I haven't, played through it and finished it and uh, maybe like a decade or so at this point. And I remember I said last week that I thought it was the weakest story of the three, and I was like, yeah, but I don't have a fresh memory of it at all, so I don't feel like that's really fair. And so I went back, played through it, and I still I'm still kind of unsure. I think the story is a lot better than I remember. There's specific moments in Mafia 2 that like are kind of unparalleled in almost anything I've ever played. That section where you end up going to prison
Mm,
and it's like what mid 1940s when you go in, early 1950s when you get out, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it might be a little bit later than that because he was in the war, wasn't he? You have
Yeah.
that section at the beginning where you're fighting in Italy and stuff, so it would have been post-war, so post 45.
Okay. Okay. So maybe late 1950s to or late 1940s to early 19 or mid 1950s or whatever, whenever.
Yeah.
But you end up getting out when you go in prison, you're driving down and it's this very gray the world around you is so gray and you're listening to Baby It's Cold Outside.
Yeah.
And like it's just so fucking crazy when you get out of prison and the world is like drastically fucking changed and the music you're listening to is so different. And then I don't know, it gives you that feeling of like think about going to prison in 1986 and you're listening to like White Snake and Guns N' Roses and this and that, and then you get out of prison and it's like Nirvana and it's Alice in
Mm.
Chains and it's like, you know, even though you think about 5 years, 6 years, whatever, this gap of time is not really that significant the way we look at it, but it is like a cultural change can take place so
It
quickly and the way that
it's
the
always
cars,
changing. Yeah, it's
yeah.
always changing.
And then just the way that cars are manufactured in the game and then the speed of the cars, like everything about the tone of that game changes the second you get out of prison. You're able to fly down roads now because you have these high powered fucking vehicles. And that I just thought that in specific was just so fucking impressive to see this total world change on a dime the second you get out of prison. And even, going through prison, well, it's not something that's often explored to that degree in video
Mhm.
games, especially in like these Grand Theft Auto or mob related video games. Like that is a core part of getting involved in a life of crime. You know the inherent risk that goes with that. And to not have that as like a core part of a lot of these games is kind of crazy if you think about it. So just even having that in the game, I thought was really well done. Everything about that little section of Mafia 2 was really well done. I do think the ending felt like a bit rushed, and the game overall just kind of felt short. I think it was
Yeah.
maybe 8, 9 hours to get through, which I was just playing through the story, which there's not a ton
There's not
of.
really a ton of side stuff. It's the same with Mafia 1. It it has these open worlds, but the main bulk is the main story, and then you can just be like, oh, I won't go to that next story mission. I'll just go look for this poster or something. There's not really a side quest thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I think that was your main criticism with the Mafia games was there's just the worlds are pretty bland. But I understand they're kind of using it for a backdrop. And I think my main criticism would be that uh, you're always going to compare shit to Grand Theft Auto because it's just like it's the apex.
That's the
It's
bar. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the thing Grand Theft Auto does so much better than Mafia is utilizing the open world in the actual missions. Like, so when you're, doing crazy chase scenes, there will be, which I know that Mafia is trying to be more toned down, but there's crazy chase scenes in Grand Theft Auto where you're, hitting a ramp and they have it all perfectly lined up to where you think you're actually the one controlling everything because you are, but they have it so designed around you getting these specific moments to happen that are like big holy shit moments. Mafia's world doesn't really feel like it's designed around getting memorable moments. It doesn't feel like it's designed around drawing those out and giving players those crazy holy shit, I can't believe this happened in the open world style moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's only, and maybe I'm missing a couple, but in the whole series, the two that spring to mind is because, like you said, it makes you feel like you have an impact on it, but it's almost predetermined,
Yep.
almost. And it was one that was in, because there's the DLC in Mafia 2 for Joe that you follow, and you have a chase sequence in that across like a frozen lake,
Oh,
and
that's sick.
it gives you a completely different cutscene if you can knock him into the water.
Oh,
Because you need to
wow.
kill him or you get to the actual end destination, but you kill him in a different way. So there's that, and then there's also in obviously the original Mafia remake when you're doing the race and stuff, and some opponent because you're not obviously a racer, so you're trailing and trailing and trailing, and then it has these things where it's scripted to happen, like a guy's tire will explode and blow out and spin him off the track or stuff like that, and them little moments where it makes you feel good, even though you didn't really, it wasn't you doing it. And it's the same with the Grand Theft Auto. You're going through these chase sequences. These ramps are put in very, very specific spots, and they're there in mind that the player will see this. 99% of the players will see this and be like, hell yeah, and hit the ramp and give you
Yeah.
that cinematic camera and stuff like that. Because it makes you just feel good.
It does. Yeah. Well, it makes it feel like at any given time something can change, and that you can have a different encounter that someone else wouldn't have. And to be fair, Mafia 2 has a couple of those. Like there's one where you have to chase some dudes down, I believe greasers. You're chasing down these greasers after they attack you. They like circle you, attack you, and then they end up driving off. And you can go and like chase them down. And if they end up getting away, you have to go and make a call. And they ended up getting away from me. So I had to go and make this call. And I don't really know what would have happened if I didn't make the call. Or if I would have, caught him. I don't know if I would have still had to make this call and set up things through a different route. I assume you would have, but it's cool just to get my mind wondering like what could have happened there.
Yeah, you've just like rejogged a mirror. When you did the bank heist thing,
Yeah, if you don't, they
you
do have
can
cool missions like that.
if you just think about it, there's the way of you can either set the alarm off or you don't set the alarm off.
Yep.
And I think they kind of like took off for that mission because you also have the thing where them stamps like
Yep.
have a time limit and you can technically sell them all and get that money properly, or you fail it and the story still goes on, I believe.
Yeah.
It's just like, ah, well, you weren't quick enough. You get
100%.
scolded.
Yeah, I sold the stamps in time. I didn't. I fucked up on the bank. Wasn't able to do that. Well, I was able to, finish it, but I was shooting motherfuckers when you're not supposed to shoot. Well, there's not really. That's the cool thing about some. It's not the open world. It doesn't really play into this, but it does feel like they give you not branching paths, but different ways of participating in these more linear style missions. And like the one where I'll just say the one where you have to quickly exit a building. I think you
Mm,
might not you know what I'm talking about? And those dudes are like they're cornering you and you feel like you're totally out in the open, nowhere to really
yeah.
grab cover and shit. But I ended up tracking all of them bitches down. I didn't run. I just tracked all them bitches down, shot all them motherfuckers. I'm like, all right, you coming for me? Let's go. Killed all them bitches.
Say
A-
hello to my little friend.
Absolutely. And there was a moment, I don't know if this has anything at all to do, but that's the thing that you were talking about is like, who cares if it really matters? You make me feel like it mattered. There was a moment after I killed all of them where I went to their bar where they're commonly located. And the person I was with in the car uh said, well, there's not many of them left. I was like, does that is that because you're saying because I killed the motherfuckers, there's not many left? Because if and I don't know if that's the case, but if it is, that's so cool that it's accounting for my actions. You know what I mean?
Mhm. No, absolutely. And I wouldn't put it past them. 'Cause like I said, like they've done that many times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that the prison thing is that's the shining star of the game for me. Um for going from there, baby, it's cold outside to what is the who do you love? Going from that, it's like, whoa, culture has just totally shifted. People are dressing more flamboyantly and eccentric, and like, I don't know, there was just like this spice of life that was added to that game as those years went by. That was the yeah, man, that was the big thing to me. I do think it's a solid third person shooter. It's a bit finicky and kind of outdated the cover system and shit like that, where I think it's you're pressing A to grab cover and then
yeah.
A to remove yourself from cover. So at times you're like trying to pull this motherfucker out of cover. You're like, dude.
Come
And it,
on, Vito, move.
Absolutely. But it is that thing where you just have to put yourself back in 2010, where it's like, yeah, that's how cover systems work in games. I will say, I played the definitive edition. Now, this is how much love I got for you people at home. I bought Mafia 2, the original version, because I was like, I would much rather play the original version because I've heard awful things about the definitive edition. I booted it up and I couldn't record damn gameplay on the Xbox. And so I was like, I'm not gonna fucking I'm not gonna do that to the good people at home who are tuning in each week to watch this shit. So I went and bought the definitive edition. Thankfully, it wasn't too much of too much of a damn
Investment.
investment. There you go. I'm out of words at this point. Uh it didn't hurt the pockets too much because it was on sale for $10 through the like 2K did some Xbox store sale
Yeah.
thing and it was on sale for $10. So I picked it up and that's how I was able to capture gameplay. Now, with that being said, what I said earlier definitely still rings true. The definitive edition, do not play it that way. Do not play it that way. I ran into so many glitches and pop-ins and frame rate issues and just I had a damn game-breaking bug where I had to boot this bitch back up and some of those checkpoints in Mafia can be
Mm,
brutal. And none of that. That's another thing. You would think remastered, definitive edition, a lot of that shit, like the core, moment to moment experience will be cleaned up and like modernized. Where no, we don't give you a checkpoint every 30 fucking minutes. Like we give you a checkpoint every 5-10 minutes, like normal games do. No, this is even the remaster version. You fail a mission that you're 45 minutes into, you're going back 45 minutes. So do be warned about that. Uh, it's not a hard game at all, but when you have these bugs and these weird screen effects, like I believe I grabbed some gameplay of it that I'll try to remember to include in here, where the screen's just like totally glitching out. I can't see anything that's happening, and so when you're having issues like that pop up, eh, yeah, a checkpoint that's 30 minutes ago will piss you the fuck off because it
yeah,
doesn't have
no,
anything to do with
absolutely.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I ran into issues because I was doing planning on 100% in the game.
Hmm.
So 100% in Mafia 1. I was like, yeah, I'll do Mafia 2. The amount of bugs that you run into in that definitive edition, even in the base game as well, though, like the original game, it had its issues and stuff. Nowhere near to the amount of that definitive edition in quotation marks, because it really, again, it falls prey to the whole GTA definitive edition thing. These editions are so bad.
Yeah.
They don't polish them up nearly as much as they should do.
Yeah.
It's really worrying how little effort they put in.
I agree, man. That's fucking pathetic. But yeah, I love the game. I definitely, I shouldn't say love. I really, really enjoy the game a whole hell of a lot. It has its issues. I don't think melee combat's incredibly advanced or anything. It's a cool little system that they try to throw in there. I don't think the stealth combat is great. I do think the shooting's pretty solid. I love just the instantaneous nature of kill a motherfucker, take his weapon. Like I love that snappy, responsive, like, oh, you got a weapon I want, I'm gonna go grab it. And yeah, just deliberately paced. It's paced so perfectly, man. Games from this era just shit on modern games in terms of pacing. I don't know what happened with this, like, oh, we got to throw out this fucking bloated corpse and give that to you as oh, this 7 hour thing that we could have had a nice, refined experience. We're gonna turn it into 30 somehow if you doing the same bullshit for 30 hours that you could have just did quick run through in
It's
7.
it's because the majority of people equate value with time
I hate
now.
that shit.
Because we touched on this before, like it really didn't bother me how short Resident Evil 3's remake was. Because it was just fun, and that's all that matters. Like I didn't have any regrets purchasing that, even though it was like what 4 or 5 hours to beat him. Like I get it, you know. If you're a type of person that maybe buys 1 or 2 games a year, and that's the one that you fork out 60 for on day one, you're like, this has got to last me like 6 months.
Yeah.
That sucks, but that's where you should be doing like research and stuff like that, and pick
Yeah.
it up on a sale if that's the case.
And I totally understand that. Like, no doubt about it. And, like you said, wait for a fucking sale, dude. Everything goes on sale at some point. But I just think that,
Unless you're Nintendo.
right. Yeah. Uh, but I just,
Nintendo jabs in early.
I think that, like, when you think about movie prices and shit, what are you're paying $15 for a ticket for one ticket to a movie. So if you bring a date, you're paying $30. You're talking about a 2 hour movie. So it's like if I'm paying $70 for a 7 hour game, like those are kind of similar value. You know what I mean? You're paying about $10 an hour.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, everybody's gonna have their own opinion. I totally understand people being like, look, I'm not forking over $70. If it's gonna be, one of the couple games I play each year, I'm gonna get a Juggernaut. I totally understand that. But man, for those of us who like kind of I I love this is a weird statement. I love gaming, but I think the thing I love even more than gaming is starting new games. I there's something about like just clicking play for that first time and something totally new
Hmm.
flashes up on the screen like that. I love so 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 much. That's why I like Game Pass. It's just such a blockbuster because I come from the blockbuster era back in the day where it's like, ooh, this and this and I know it's not it's probably not the right mindset to have there's not a fucking right mindset. It's a consumerist,
Well, it's just your
luxury hobby.
preference. That's your preference. That I think I'm on the other end of the spectrum,
Oh,
and
really?
it's like a similar thing. Like I love finishing things. Not 100%ing is different. Seeing the end credits, knowing that that's one more tick, as it were,
Right.
is like the best feeling. And then boot, as you said, it links into yours booting up that
Yes.
next experience.
I guess I should have clarified. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these, nice, like the thing about Mafia 2 is it's paced so fucking well that there's never really a moment of letdown. You know what I mean? Like every moment feels perfectly designed to be where it's at the time it's at, giving you the right amount of story versus the right amount of gameplay. Like it's just so brilliantly paced. And the second you finish it, you're like, that's the thing I love. I love that moment right there. I got one done. I checked that one off and now I'm on to the next one. And it's like this exciting kind of sense of wonder of like what's next?
Mm.
What's gonna come next? And that's the thing where I almost prefer times where new releases are just not on the horizon at all. where it's like, ooh, I'm gonna go and dip into my
Because you
backlog.
don't know, yeah, you don't know what you're gonna pick out. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
And it's just you're sitting there and it's all about like instinctual sort of, okay, this is the moment. Boom, I'm grabbing this. We're off to the races. Like it just right in the moment.
Yeah, no, after I finished up Baldur's Gate 3, because I'm the type of person I need to genre shift. Very rarely will I back to back do the same genre because it will burn me out. So
Totally.
I went from Baldur's Gate 3 to them being like, okay, I wanted like the complete other end of the spectrum and ended up playing a superhero game, sci-fi kind of elements being that of Gotham Knights and stuff because
That's a
I need
transition there.
I need that shift because otherwise I will just lose interest. And I don't know, there's just something that I can't unwire in my head. Because if I would have booted up what's something back here, like the Inquisitor, for instance, it would have been like a similar setting kind of thing, even though if it's a different genre and stuff, it would have been like, ah, this is kind of similar.
You need something a little bit more uppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I need to be brought back to the realms of reality that not every game gets as much love as Baldur's Gate 3.
So let me ask
Um,
you this. Gotham Knights, you finished it when it first came out, right?
no, I didn't.
Oh, so you're playing it.
I I did two missions and was like, I'm gonna check out for now. I'm
I
gonna
hear you.
I'm gonna do something else. I think this is the thing. I'll always probably go back and finish most of the stuff that I pick up eventually. Um, it just it was that thing of, Avengers come out really, really sucked. And then it was just like, oh, like, because I love Batman. He's probably like up there, is in like the top three favorites for me. And it was like, okay, it's an interesting like story spin on it. And then like the whole like blueprint of it being very live servicey kind of thing, but they didn't commit. It's in that like middle ground where it's just like I would have just rather you just go one way or the other. Stop like dancing in the middle because it doesn't shine in either aspect then. We're stuck in the middle with these weird mechanics that don't tie into the story well at all. Not one bit. You're having these gear numbers and all this.
Ugh.
I don't know what on earth I'm picking up either. You take a enemy down and then it's just like here's 300 of this resource and it's just like okay, cool, I guess. And then like these other numbers pop up. You have no attachment to this. And it's just this constant repeated cycle of you go out at night, you do like a mission, and then it'll be like go back to the main hub, do that, and it's just that on repeat. And it isn't good. It just it just isn't good. Um, and it's that thing like it ties in perfectly with what you said, like why this game doesn't need to have these other elements. It could have been stripped of all of that and just been like a normal Arkham game and given maybe a couple more missions in each because it's two missions each like chapter as it were and they're
Yeah.
really damn short. Like you're talking, I finished Baldur's Gate 3. I'm almost done with Gotham Knights because I'm not interacting with any of that other crap in the world.
Oh, it's awful. That other shit is
Yeah,
horrible, dude.
I didn't even bother. Like they because they flirted with it as you're going through the main missions as like, here you go, this is the stuff you're going to be doing when you're done with the story. And it's like, no, I'm not Gotham Knights.
No.
I'm going to be uninstalling this. I think you'll find. So yeah, I have one mission left.
Oh wow.
That
So
is it.
yeah.
Like I blitzed through it. It was like you're doing these missions in like 30 to 35 minutes a piece, if that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I I will say I think that Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad are much better than the Avengers, in my opinion.
Yeah, no,
Eh,
I won't. I can't dispute that because the Avengers really, really lent into it
yeah,
as a
like
live service game of just not even just having the gear score crap, but just even the standard mission structure had no story at all. You would be doing the stand in this pad, percent, and like Gotham Knights has done that a few times, but at least it they're trying. It feels like the Anthem thing. They're trying to inject story, they just can't because of the way the game is built. So the
I,
story beats also miss as well.
let's let's make this a Gotham Knights slash Suicide Squad discussion, since I feel like that's kind of an interesting way to branch these together since I've been playing Suicide Squad. So what I was about to say is I think that the Gotham Knight mission structure, as poorly executed as it is, I think it's better than Suicide Squad. Like because whenever I think Suicide Squad is just more fun on a moment to moment basis. Like it, zipping around and shooting, playing with Deadshot and, lining up my scopes, sniping motherfuckers, using my jetpack. Like that is fun. It's just fun to play. But dude, the last 3 hours of this game, I literally, oh, and I'm not joking, I would say at least half of the final 3 hours, an hour and 30 minutes, is just you guiding transportation trucks to their destination. I swear to God, I'm not joking.
How
You are,
thrilling.
it is the most mind-numbingly boring bullshit I've ever experienced in a game. Oh, the truck has to stop, clear out these enemies. Oh, go and try to find the Bat Cave and clear out these enemies. Oh, that's not the right Bat Cave. Go try to find another. Oh, that's not the right one. Go to try to find another. Like it is the mission design in Suicide Squad is unbelievably bad. It's just a open world, blank canvas, go out and shoot shit. And granted, shooting shit feels great, zipping around feels great, but none of that matters. Like when I think about, you know, Mr. Freeze in Arkham City, or even like Killer Croc in Arkham Asylum, it was able to make these villains so unique, and like you use all of your skills as Batman in Arkham City fighting Mr. Freeze. Killer Croc, not as much, but it's such a Killer Croc centric, encounter. And in this, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go and battle the Flash, and I'm gonna use the exact same ability that, or it's not the same ability, but it's mechanically exactly the same that I use to battle every single other, quote unquote enemy, or a boss. And yeah, I think I after playing it, I would, because last week when we were talking, I was somewhat hottish on Suicide Squad.
Mm.
I was like, this
It's a
isn't
lot
bad.
warmer than I expected, yeah. And that's what worries me about the love set. They always get you with that like intro hook. Because
Avengers
if
did.
yeah, and the same with Gotham Knights. That first scene, the cutscene setting up the story, you're like, oh, maybe they're onto something here. And then they just don't. None of these free games capitalize on it at all. They always run out of steam because they have to shoehorn in these grindathons and stuff like that to try and be like, okay, we need to sow this seed in at some point in the story to try and like embed them and keep them in this game, and then just make them the little guinea pig on the hamster wheel kind of thing. Like, and it just, yeah, it really just kills my enjoyment.
I think that the one thing, like, at least mechanically, Gotham Knights has a few, trinkets and gadgets and stealth takedowns, and like it's not overly advanced like the Arkham games, but there's still that melee DNA. And in Suicide Squad, there's just none of that. It's
It's
grenades and
just all action.
shotguns.
Yeah.
Yeah, AK-47s
Which
and snipers.
it fits with their characters, I suppose. They're obviously they're not known for being subtle. They're kind of the goofball team that you bring in when you have the Suicide Squad. They're meant to die. is
Yeah.
is their viewpoint on it? They don't like them. People that they're people you just put out there as fodder, basically.
But I feel like, a king shark or a boomerang. Like I understand Deadshot.
Hmm.
That's the right name, right? Deadshot? Yeah.
I think so.
There's
Yeah.
yeah, Deadshot and Deathstroke. I think those are two different.
Yeah.
Anyways, Deadshot. Uh I understand him, the sniper, the guns, but like, fucking the shark and the boomerang. Like, why does the boomerang dude not have some dope ass ways to utilize that boomerang in melee comp? Like, I don't know. It's
Does he just get guns as well?
yeah. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And I mean, they have like some sort of very uh, I mean, it's a horrible melee system, but I guess you can at least say it's somewhat there. But it's just like, it'd be great to utilize the boomerang and have missions that are designed specifically for boomerang that you have to play. Have missions designed specifically for Harley that you have to play that are centered around those characters. And that's
I
the
think they're
thing. There's,
scared of that. They're really scared of making the players actually engage and work with stuff. They want to keep you in a very dulled state.
yeah,
They don't want you really thinking because if you're thinking, then you're thinking I could be doing something a hell of a lot better.
yeah,
Is what it feels like because it they want to make everything the same because they don't want you seeing your friend playing as a different character and having that like choice regret that I could have been having more fun as that and stuff like that. That seems like where the industry is. Every character of these games plays almost identical. They
yeah,
have almost no impact on it. That Redfall did it. Gotham Knights has been doing it because I dipped into a couple characters. It's like they they're very, very, very similar. Like they don't really offer anything like as diverse as you would hope, and that seems the same as Suicide Squad.
yeah. It's well, I guess I so you've pretty much finished it at this point. Are you how cold on it are you? Like,
Um,
do you put it in that Avengers territory, slightly above that?
no, it'd have to be slightly above that because at least the thing that always made me laugh about the Avengers, and I know some people it won't bother them, but like they didn't even bother trying to like even remotely capture the likeness in Avengers.
Yeah,
They look like knock. You see them joke like second hand, like the stores where it would be like
yeah,
Robot Man and stuff, and it's just like, oh guys, like the budget that you had, you're telling me you couldn't even land like one actor, even if it was like Jeremy Renner, for Christ's sake. Like, it was like
right.
Hawkeye, like okay, maybe you couldn't land a Robert Downey Jr. or a Hemsworth, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, so you're pretty uh you would say sixes in that range if you had to throw an arbitrary number on it?
Yeah, probably like a 6.5 for Gotham Knights. Obviously I don't know how the ending is gonna pan out, but I guess my because I have a soft spot for DC. I think it gets unfairly shit on in comparison to Marvel. Like they do some good stuff because you're a big fan of like The Wolf Among Us. Like the source of that is like DC
Yeah.
tied in. Like DC owns the rights to that, or they're partnered with them and stuff like that. And they have some really cool IPs and they do some really cool things. They just never, other than the Arkham games, they've never really given gaming like a shot, really, kind of like Marvel has. Like Marvel's had tons of games that they've kicked out the door and they've all been arse and stuff. And then you had like the few where it like rose above like Origins, Wolverine, and Ultimate Alliance, and the Spider-Man games and stuff like that. Whereas DC seems very like, we don't really care. It's kind of disappointing because when they do enter the space, they
Half.
do so bad.
Yeah.
And it's the
Well,
same with the movies as well. Like it just seems like they don't care about their product at all.
yeah. It's I think I'm really really curious about that Monolith developed Wonder Woman game, the Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor guys making that making that Wonder Woman game with that Nemesis system, and I wonder if that could be the big breakout. But I with WB, their recent statements about doubling down on live service and shit, it's just yeah, it that is very very that worries me to a great degree, and we know we'll never get another Rocksteady game with the pedigree from the originals because all the original creators, like the original like founder and co-founder, I believe they both left and formed a new studio. So
Because you see it more and more now. These massive companies, they don't want to make them style of games. They want the live service games because people like me and you will sit here and criticize. So many people criticize, but you have that silent player base that are just happy with that they just want that, and they will just buy. And it's why like I could see people giving me a little bit of a side eye when we was doing our predictions on like best selling and stuff, and mate like being like, are you sure Suicide Squad will be in there? And it's just like I think yeah, like
it'll be in there.
seriously, because even people who went and got their refunds, there's so many people out there that just gobble this up,
Yeah, and
and
I
it's just unfortunate. Like, and they know that, and that's why they will double down on it because they get a ton of money back from these types of games.
well, that's the crazy thing, Loon, and not to uh the thing is it's not even necessarily that they make a lot of money. They're just gonna get people to buy in. And if you look at like 2020 with Avengers, that I think was on the top 20 best-selling games. When you look at last year, I think Gotham Knights was on the best-selling games. And these people, the player base is gone for all those games. So the continued success that they were hoping to have, zero chance that that's ever going to happen for any of these games, Suicide Squad included. But
Mm,
but there for people like you and I, like we are morbidly curious about these games. And whenever they go on sale for half price, and that's what you were talking about with the predictions with Suicide Squad, it came out in January. So you got 11 months until those sales are all calculated for this thing to be on sale for $10. I guarantee you Suicide Squad will be one of those, deal of the day games at the end of the
yep.
year for Best Buy where you can get it for $9.99. I guarantee you right now it's already $35. You're talking about 7, 8 more months, 9 more months. Like, yeah, it will be on a deep discount, and those sales all add up. So yeah, it will be on that best selling list. There's no doubt about it. I think I probably put it too low.
Yeah, and it's just sad because, like you said, their player base dies, but they don't care about that. That's not a metric they care about at all because they've got your money already. Would it
Well,
be ideal if you stayed in the game and you bought their little coin packs and everything? Yeah, but there's people that do that. That one whale will make up for 100 people that buy the game. Like the people who sit there and they'll dump $100 in the coins and stuff
oh,
like that because it's an addiction to them and maybe they connect with it.
I think we're
So
having a
yeah, are
slight
we?
internet. Yeah, a little bit of a internet issue here. I think we might be in the clear now. I think it was just a little blip in the system. But no, I hear what you're saying. The fact that those players buy in initially, and even though they get out, the money is still there in WB's pockets. Of course, they would want to have a Fortnite. That's what they're always looking for, a Fortnite. Every one of these companies is always looking for a Fortnite, and none of these companies ever get a Fortnite. But you know, it is what it is, man. But did you have any other thoughts you wanted to hit on with Gotham Knights or
Um, no, no, no.
cool? Yeah,
I
I
don't
hear
want
you.
to keep the dooming and glooming. I guess one last. I just wished we could just go back to because you look back at like Ultimate Alliance and that had a gear system and stuff, but it was fun
Yeah.
and it was single player centric and it was a full package and the love that they put in them things because it was yeah you could look at it as like grinding and stuff like that, but they would
Oh
put
yeah.
little nuggets for the fans of the comics and stuff where you'd find a comic and then that would give you a skin and there was just so much more effort put into it and there's just none of that in any of these free games other than visual polish and stuff like that. Like Gotham Knights looks all right. It could have looked a little bit better. I'm sure Suicide Squad looks decent.
Oh yeah,
And there were parts of Avengers that looked decent where it wasn't the characters. But
for
that
sure.
is it. It's just the buzzwords. That's what they land on. The make it look good and fill it with bloat. And that is it.
And that's the thing I will say. If you want, and no joke, I well, I don't want to go that far. I was gonna say on Horizon's level for character models, but it's not far below that for like best of the best ever that I've seen for character models would be fucking Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And that's the thing where you can feel that's like Rocksteady battling back against WB, where it's like, no, we really want people to fucking look at this and, have something to take away where they're like, yeah, that's that Rocksteady DNA, that Rocksteady polish, that Rocksteady quality. And then you get to the mission design, the quest
Mm.
design, the bloat, the loot, the vomit, then you're like, oh yeah, there's
You can
WB.
see what they were passionate about, what
Yeah.
they wanted to make. Because
Story.
even now, Arkham Knight is still one of the best looking games. It came out in like 2015, for Christ's sake. Like they're clearly passionate about it, but then when you get them to do something that they don't want to do, that's the effort that they'll put in, and I fully respect and understand that as
Fuck
well,
yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like, of course you don't want to put in the effort when it comes to that mind-numbing crap.
Yeah. Dude, a game a little over a year after the eighth generation system shipped, Arkham Knight is still one of the top five best looking games on those systems. Like, what a absolute looker. Um, Yeah, I would just kill, even though Arkham Knight wasn't my favorite, I would kill just to go back to those days, the Arkham Knight days, man. Oh my
Mm.
God. If we could have got a Suicide Squad game that was half as good as Arkham Knight, or a Gotham Knights game that was half as good as Arkham Knight, I would have been jumping for joy. But that was not the case. Um, let's see. I guess I'll move on and talk about Blitz the League 2. This is a random oddball that I jumped into, a football game from Midway, who is now defunct, unfortunately, who used to create just tons of you.
Tons of titles, yeah.
Yeah, and most of them had like extreme flavor to them. Some of them weren't great, a lot of them weren't great, but they all had like extreme flavor to them. And Blitz the League, that franchise, that I guess not a franchise, just two games. I loved the first, never played the second. So I just wanted to, there was a little bit of a lull before Stellar Blade and Sandland came out. And I was like, I don't want to commit to anything that's story driven after finishing Mafia 2. But I was like, let me dive into some football. Want to play me some gosh darn football. And this is so fun. It's so damn fun. And I shouldn't even say it's not story driven. It's not overly complex. Like you're not getting tons of cutscenes that you got to pay attention to all sorts of lore details, and it's nothing like that. But you get a main character that's already, pre-created for you, and he's fully voiced. So, he has like a real place in the story. Um, and then you end up kind of going through, it's like it's sectioned off where it's divisions. You have division 1, division 2, and division 3, and there's like no difficulty setting, but the difficulty naturally ramps. So when you start off at division 3, which is the like easiest, and you'll play through a full season, win the MVP, win the Super Bowl, whatever, and then you go to Division 2, and then to or yeah, Division 2, and then to Division 1, the like Premier League, and that's when it's the hardest. And dude, it gets pretty damn hard. Like this shit becomes pretty difficult. I've been playing sports games my entire life, and uh, that final season, there were a couple games where I was like, legit nail biters where you're having to pull off some crazy shit to get the W. And yeah, man, it's a batshit crazy game. You can perform like dirty hits on players. You have this a turbo meter thing. It's not even really a turbo meter. It essentially like slows down time on offense, but on defense, it allows you to like do these supercharged hits, and you'll just smash into into your opponent. And you'll rupture their spleen, you'll break their ribs, you'll do all, and you see
God,
like when you see like broken ankle or whatever, they'll like zoom in on the ankle and do like an x-ray shot, and you'll see it snapping, and it's like just gory as fuck. You'll if it's your player that gets hit and gets like their ankle broke or whatever, they'll take them over to the sideline and you'll have to shoot them up with steroids immediately. And if you like, and it's a mini game where you got to hit this bullseye, and if you hit the mini game, if you hit the needle into the bullseye, you get like 100%, and he'll heal quicker and shit. So say, you bruise your ribs, and typically you'll be out for, I don't know, 10 plays. If you get that perfect precise steroid into the bullseye, you'll be out for 3 plays or 2 plays. And yeah, man. And then when you're in your like management throughout the season, you go and you can buy specific steroids for these players, and they can be like taking it throughout the year, so they'll like upgrade their stats periodically. And you got different, upgrades and shit that you're going and buying. So you have like speed, strength, agility, blocking, catching, passing, all this shit. And you make a bunch of money throughout the season. And a big way to make money throughout the season is you can go and do side bets on each of the games. So say you're playing the, I don't know, Miami. I don't know if it's the Sharks or whatever, but you're playing a Miami team, and it's not NFL. It's nothing to do with NFL. You're
yeah, they
playing,
wouldn't like they wouldn't touch that with the drugs.
of course
It would
not.
be so
Yeah,
bad. Oh,
and
this
then
oozes such early 2000s vibes.
yes, dude, absolutely. But the betting system's really cool because, like, say you're playing a Miami team, and they'll have odds. So it's not just you're betting on yourself to win. Like, say this Miami team is excellent. They'll have it to where the odds are you only have to win by 3. And if you can clear that and you bet 35,000, you can win 70,000 on the back end. But say you're playing against a team who's dog shit, it'll be like you got to win by 21. It's like, oof. And it's only 2-minute quarters. So you're thinking to yourself, I don't know, man. Like if they get one touchdown, that means I'm gonna have to get 28 points to clear the odds here. And so there's like a little strategic element there. And even with that boost meter that I was talking about, where you slow down on offense, it drains pretty quickly. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, I have this uh boost meter and slowdown meter kind of are antithetical to one another. So I'll just call it's the slowdown meter on offense. And you're thinking, okay, well, I got this thing maxed out. Now, should I use it here? Say I'm down by 7. Should I use it here to try to get into the end zone, or do I trust my offense's ability to get into the end zone naturally? And then if I use it on defense, I'll be more likely to injure a key player or to get a fumble. And then I get the ball back. And so there's like these strategic elements built in with their boost meter. And and then when the other team has their boost meter, you can see that. So, say you're on offense and if they hit you with that boost meter, you're more likely to fumble. And so you start going, okay, well, I'm going to stay running near the sidelines, near out of bounds. I'm not going to run anything through the middle. I'm not going to have my receivers do routes up the middle or anything like that. We're going to keep everything sideline oriented. That way, if I get hit and I fumble, the ball will roll out of bounds. So there's like these small, none of that matters on, your first division, and even the second division, not so much if you've been playing sports games for or football games for a while, but on that third division, or I guess it's Division 1, the top division, you absolutely need to keep all of that shit in your brain or you will get smoked by those teams. And yeah, dude, it's really fucking fun. It was cool as shit.
What's crazy is that it sounds very, very arcadey, but it seems to have almost as much, maybe even more tactical, like need than a Madden game.
Yeah, that's a really
It
good
has
point.
so many more layers.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Eh, It's tough for me to really speak to that because like I have friends who are fucking raw at Madden, like elite Madden players. And what they can do to me playing Madden is like, what the fuck? So there's obviously layers in that game that I just don't understand. But from a
But this
not
still keeps it accessible then. Is
yes,
that that's the main thing, is that it can give you these layers, but it's easier to digest and stuff and much more
totally.
accessible.
This is a very accessible layered version of football, which is really cool. Like you don't have to understand formations and 4-3 and nickel defense. And okay, I'm dropping five defensive backs because there's third and 27 where like it's nothing like that. It's crazy chaos, but there's like cool video gamification elements that most gamers can just naturally understand because it's like, okay, cool. In my character action game, I get this boost meter. I got to be strategic of when I use this boost meter in my character action game. Now apply that same concept to football. So it's just uh more accessible in that manner, but with the layers of video gaminess that's not necessarily translatable to a Madden game, if that makes sense. Um,
It prioritizes fun over simulation.
totally, totally. And yeah, man, I had a fucking great time with it. The commentary is hilarious. It's super raunchy. They have what's Frank Caliendo? The he's like world famous for his impressions of people. He does like these crazy Madden impersonations where and he does it in the game. It's like I'm very surprised they were able to get all this shit in the game. And he says some and he sounds just like Madden. He says some wild shit in there though. Like stuff that would never in a million years be released onto disc in 2024. Like there's some wild shit he says in there. And it almost feels like he was just given a blank slate and just told, go make funny jokes. And I mean, he rips some dude, it is a fucking, it's a hilarious, you have like girlfriends and shit in the game, and you have to go and you have to like level that up where they'll ask you to do something. And if you don't do it, they'll like drop you and shit. It's a weird, silly, fun ass video game. And there's like an evil corporate owner and then sort of you talking about prison and Mafia too. You get thrown into prison in
Oh
this
my
game as
God.
well. It's got like the fucking Gridiron Gang. What's the Adam Sandler movie? Fuck the where he goes to prison. It was initially Burt Reynolds.
I don't know. I've not watched many Adam Sandler movies, I'm afraid.
Yo, why is my brain blanking on this? That is holy shit, that's weird. I've watched this movie like 50 fucking times.
All I could say is like Happy Gilmore, but it ain't that.
No, hold on. Let's see. It is, I mean, it really doesn't fucking matter, but it's everybody, literally everybody listening to this will know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anybody who's, uh, football fans or whatever. But yeah, it's a sick ass game, fun as shit. Would highly recommend if you're into
It's called
arcadey.
Hustle?
No, hold on.
No.
I'll pull it up. I'm da, 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 da. It
Longest Yard?
longest yard. Thank
There you
you.
go.
Jesus Christ. I don't know. Bro, I'm struggling this week. My brain is not
Good.
properly
It
functioning.
also doesn't help that I've not seen to he's really big in the States. He's not that big here. But he's
Right.
like one of the most richest actors. It shocked me when I learned that. Like the guy is ridiculously minted with like how much he makes.
Yeah.
And just
Well,
yeah, it doesn't really do it for me over here.
yeah. It's crazy that he lives the dream life to me. I don't know if you saw like just clips of him existing in
Yeah.
day-to-day life.
He
Like
just
people,
doesn't he's just himself. He just
yes.
doesn't get like I remember in COVID and stuff they were doing interviews and stuff. And he's just like he lives obviously around all these rich people in these rich areas, but he doesn't look like a rich person.
No.
And so I think some like woman was yelling at him because he was like walking his dog, saying that he doesn't like she didn't know it was Adam Sandler. Like you can't be here walking your dog through the neighborhood. He's like, I live here, miss. You know,
Yeah.
you don't know who I am.
Dude, that to me, like, I've never really talked about it on the podcast. That is the entire life I'm trying to build. Like I got this small ass single wide trailer out here, but this bitch is paid for. My land is paid for. And literally all I'm doing now, I got my little gym set up. It's nothing special. Like I'm getting that set up. I want to get a legit because Adam Sandler is a full-blown basketball just nut. Like he in his free time, it's just nothing but basketball with his homies. And that to me is like the dream. Just have a fantasy land style spot where you have the shit you want to do and like fuck all obligation, put enough money back. Like to me, I don't ever and obviously I shouldn't say Adam Sandler's the inspiration in terms of finance. Like, I'll never even I'll probably never have 0.5% of what he has. But to me, it's like enough money to where you don't fucking stress and you can do the things you want to do. That's the inspiration that Adam Sandler really like evokes in my brain. When I see him, I don't really I'm not like a as Trent Reznor would say, I'm not a star fucker. Like I don't really look at stars and celebrities and think, oh, they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I do look at Adam Sandler and think that he has it. Whatever's going on in his brain, that's correct. I feel like that's the correct way of looking at life. So yeah, shout out to damn Adam Sandler. Be yourself, man. Be your fucking self, even if you're a multi-trillionaire. But yeah, dude, Blitz the League 2. It's sick. My only real complaints for it would be that you can't scramble in the pocket with your quarterback. So that really, like, I love playing with my quarterback and like running with him, juking somebody out and running out of the pocket. Can't really do that. The only time your quarterback will actually sprint is once you've crossed the line of scrimmage. So, you drop back 3 steps. You got to take like 5 steps forward before you can even really begin to sprint with the quarterback. That's a bummer. Um, and also you get locked into animations quite a lot. So I'll use, I'll try to juke somebody or whatever, and or say I try to like throw the ball with my quarterback. They'll lock me into an animation specifically when they have their boost ability because it's essentially loading a cutscene. And so no matter what I do, it has to load that cutscene. Even
Mm.
if the timing is somewhat synced, it really doesn't matter of what I'm doing in that moment. It kind of prioritizes loading that animation. So it's a bit of a knock, but
So
still.
it's a fairly older game, isn't it? Like you said, 360
Yeah.
era.
If I'm not mistaken, that might have been the last game Midway ever made. I could be wrong on that, but I know they shut down like early 2010s if I'm not mistaken. So bummer, man. That studio, they created unique titles. And I know that it's the thing where it's like I almost don't even really like bringing this up and talking about games like this because it's not accessible anymore. Like you to get a copy of it, you're paying fucking $70. And it's like I, it's I could go on a whole rant about resellers and fucking artificially inflating game prices, but it's like, dude, this is a game that I would walk into every shop in the world and see a copy of it even 5 years ago, 6 years ago for next to nothing.
For dirt
And
cheap. Yep. The
ugh,
moment things get posted online and it moves from being, oh, it's an old console to then being branded as retro, that's when them prices spike.
absolutely. I will say though, I bought a PAL version of it, and the PAL version was like, I think $30, $40, something like that. So and it can play on regular like any 360. There's no region lock on it. So if you're really curious about it, I don't even know if I'd say it's worth $30. You know, I don't really know how to assess someone else's m- spending
It's
what
the
they
lesser of two evils, at least. There's that little bit of nugget of information.
yeah, buy that PAL version for sure. The cover is dog shit, but
It's
um oh, it's so bad compared to the ESRB cover. But regardless, who gives a shit? $30 cheaper. Fuck that cover. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I guess that's all we've been playing, correct?
Yeah. You're
Nice.
on a ridiculous, like the other thing I wanted to point out was you're almost up to like 10,000 G this month. Like you
Oh
are
yeah.
slaying that fucking goal. It's
Well,
like, oh my God.
that's Telltale though. I played through
I,
five Walking
I,
Dead
I
games.
mean, I mean, that's, game of school is game of school. You set that goal,
Yeah.
you know, it's not, at least it's not 5 and 10 minute 100% that you're popping, but
Oh
they're
yeah.
still, 8 hour, you know,
Yeah.
experiences. But yeah, you're well on you'll smash that
Oh
50K
yeah, yeah,
easy.
definitely. Yeah, that and I'm not gonna lie, that is a big reason why I chose to play those games on Xbox just to go ahead and secure that 50K. That way I don't have to like just in case, somehow this June, oh shit, Dragon Age, uh Star Wars, Assassin's Creed, this, that, and the other, where I end up grabbing physical copies and playing it on PlayStation. It's like, okay, let's keep that 50K secure. And but yeah, most of that shit's just Telltale. But without that, I'm probably around like 4 or 5 thousand. So but it's fun, man. I love the boy. We're already fucking ranting and raving way off the rails at this point. But I will say this, I swear to God, we'll get to the news. I will say, I love that immediate fucking, like, there's something about that gamer score that addicts me way more, pause, that gets me way more than the trophy system. Like, there is like just the immediacy when I get a 100, you finish a game, you get 100 G. I immediately see it. With the trophy system, it's like, dude, I'm stuck at I think 329. I've been stuck there for like fucking a month.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, because the things that only boost it when you get to that level of the platinums. Because
Yeah.
they all have their own individual values and stuff, and that's where they're doing two separate things, is what it feels like. Xbox doesn't really prioritize completions in the way that PlayStation does. PlayStation wants you to earn them platinum trophies, whereas Xbox is like, build that score. It doesn't matter if you only 25% a list, get 250 G out of the 1,000. That 250 just gets applied straight to your thing, and it's just one big ass number building up and up and up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that seems to really appeal to you. That's awesome.
It does, man. I love that because like I don't give a shit if I get 30% of a game finished. If I finish the story, had fun with it, like cool. But like give me something. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like I'll play because that's the thing too. I'll play a lot of PlayStation games and you'll finish the game and get a bronze trophy.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, fuck you. Give me gold or get the hell out of here. No chance finishing a game should ever grant you just a bronze trophy. That's nuts.
Yeah, I never understood that. I remember playing through a few PlayStation games and it being like, there doesn't seem to be like a method to the system. Because the thing that confused me as well, that probably, I don't know if you've paid attention, some games don't even have platinum trophies.
Yeah.
They don't have like a standardized, like for Xbox, they had like a little bit of a wobble at the beginning, but then it was set in stone that, look, you need a list is 1,000 G base. The game launches as 1,000. You can do whatever you want with the numbers, but it has to add up to 1,000 G. And even now, PlayStation drops games, and some of them don't have, and I just don't understand it. It just doesn't. It's very bizarre.
To me, it's so satisfying with that Xbox system, knowing when you finish a game, you get 100 usually. It's just kind of standard seeming. And it's like, fuck yeah, I have that to look forward to. When I finish it, I'm gonna go recheck my damn score. I got an extra 100 on there. I really like
Unless
it.
you do brutal stuff like in Halo, and then Halo kind of takes the piss with that. They'll give you like 0 G achievements, and it's just like, man, fuck
Yeah,
you.
that shit is so lame.
Beat the game on the hardest difficulty for a 0 G. Thanks, game.
But I guess transitioning over, we can stay in Xbox land, talk a little bit about Xbox. And we have a big breakdown here. Microsoft reported their fiscal earnings for Q3 2024. This is coming from Tom Warren. Um, and obviously everything will be linked in the description. But this is stuff that what was this yesterday when this broke? Or was this today?
I think it said it was 14 hours ago when I looked at it last, which was today.
Okay.
So yesterday, I think,
Cool,
roughly.
cool. So I haven't really looked over this much, so we'll kind of just check over this together. But Microsoft Q3 earnings, we'll skip the shit that doesn't matter. Gaming revenue up 51%. ABK is paying the big bucks. And then we have Xbox content plus service revenue up 62%. And then Xbox hardware down 31%. Um, Not great on the console front, but I don't really think Xbox cares all that much whenever they're making that kind of cash off of Activision Blizzard as well as their, Sea of Thieves and all that shit going to other platforms.
Yeah, people seem to really be focusing on that number more than anything from what I saw and like the comments and stuff like that of like, well, it's not done anything for the hardware stuff, and it's like I don't think you quite understand like how few people are going out and buying consoles at the moment, like even PlayStation 5s and stuff like that. Like it is at its all-time low at the moment. It's that the hype has gone. We have these new ones announced on the horizon. So the people who wanted to buy a PS5,
Waiting.
they're not going to go out and buy a PS5 right now when they know that that Pro model is just around the corner. Why would you? That'd be the stupidest thing you could do.
Yeah.
So that number doesn't, yeah, I think that's being like unfairly judged, but no surprise at all for like the revenue going up. Like
Of
you're seeing the
course.
immediate impact of Activision Blizzard, and you see the other people being a little bit kind of sore that, oh well, that also wouldn't have been as high if they didn't acquire Activision Blizzard. And it's like, well, they
No
have like that.
shit.
I don't know why you're living in this world where the ifs, ands, or but like that it's absolutes. Like
Yeah.
they're reporting on their earnings, and they went out with the mindset of we're going to buy this because it's going to make money, and it's making money, so therefore it was a success. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. What the fuck did you expect for them not to report that on their like
yeah,
it's a part they've spent $69 billion. Of course they're gonna fucking parade those
trumpet
numbers
that.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they need to
absolutely.
show that this is a
Profitable business.
shareholder centric company. They need to show that that massive investment is turning a profit. Obviously, they're not going to make that money back immediately, but they're making money back. If they would have had negatives across the board of that, that would be very big red flags of like, what on earth are you doing as a company? This is just them saying like, we have a vision and it's working.
Totally. Totally. Um, but I will say to not to go full doom and gloom, but that third party kind of route makes a ton of sense when seeing that 31% dip in hardware. That it for sure makes sense to be everywhere, to be on PC, to be on PlayStation, to be on Switch for a lot of your games. You want that revenue to keep going up. I mean, if the hardware doesn't go up with it, then fuck it. We got to put this shit where more people are. And I guess we'll continue off of that. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella on gaming in Q3. We are committed to meeting players where they are by bringing great games to more people on more devices. We set third quarter records for game streaming, hours, console usage, and monthly active devices. Hold on, I fucked up there. We set third quarter records for game streaming hours, console usage, and monthly active devices. I thought there was a comma where there was not one. So even Satya Nadella is saying, "Hey, look, we're committed to meeting players where they are," and I think that totally makes sense given those numbers. The breakdown there, of course, stuff from the Activision library will remain everywhere. That's gonna be their cow that they milk until every goddamn morsel is out of that thing. Um, and yeah, they're gonna put all that shit as many places as humanly possible. Do you have any thoughts on that? Satya Nadella quote.
No, it just shows that they're always a step ahead, even if we don't like it. Like this, you know, it's a $1 trillion company.
Exactly.
The choices that they make, they don't just make them on whims. You have so many people that needs to go through. So they've obviously looked at all the data, because you can say from like what we see, you could make a statement on what they should do and blah blah blah. They've looked at everything. They've looked at all the possible avenues. This is the only way that Xbox stays relevant. And I
Totally.
know it saw, even for me, like seeing hardware sales down, does that then influence them to slowly push out and you have that worry and stuff? But it may be that they look at it as we will just take that money to improve that and make a comeback or stuff like that. Like they need revenue and they're clearly getting that revenue now,
Totally.
whereas they weren't in the past. Like Game Pass seems to have hit its ceiling because that
Yeah.
was like Phil's first trump card, and it was just like, okay, well, we've kind of run that well dry. Like it's successful, it's doing good numbers, but this is as much as we're gonna get because the hardware sales are not increasing. So we need to pivot. And that's something that I'll always give credit to Xbox for. They don't just sit on their hands. They do at least try to maneuver and stuff with this new direction from 2013 onward.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head a few weeks back when we were talking about the thing that would really bump those Game Pass numbers would be COD dropping there this year. And I said something like that I thought they were legally obligated to keep it off of subscription services, but I don't think that's the case.
I
Because I
think
went,
they can't land it exclusively. I
okay,
think is what the contract is. They're not allowed to just be like, yeah, it can't launch on PlayStation, but you can get it in Game Pass.
yeah.
I
Well,
could 100% see it landing on Game Pass day one.
that's a
Um,
big boon.
because you're seeing as well massive, massive controversies. I don't know if you've seen it, the skin debacle thing with like the King Kong gloves. Like they have taken that to the next level where it's like you people complaining about $20 skin packs. You need to buy four, five $20 skin packs to then get this. It's like a collection thing now. You need to get these five things so that you can get the big thing. And it's just
Yo.
like, and that's my, I could see this from a mile away is why I was saying that you put that in Game Pass. Yeah, I get it. You miss out on the $60, $70 day one thing, but you can then revamp your whole monetization model to make it even more predatory and prey on these people who are going to pay for that. And you make that money back because you're talking this pair of gloves is $100 to get. That's more than you're paying for the game. So you get them in, and they're paying more than they would have done for the game already, and there's other skin packs already on the store. So if you can get the player to swallow being like, oh well, that justifies it even more that more people, because I get it, people already buy these skins. There's also a massive portion that don't. So if you
Yeah.
can get them, it's why Fortnite succeeds because it's free to get in. You think Epic is extremely greedy of a company. They could easily be like, it's successful now, it's a $15 entry price, 20, 30, 40, but they don't. They keep it free so that they can make that market as lucrative and as appealing as possible to the player base. And that feels like probably what they'll do with COD moving forward.
Well, the Game Pass angle is really interesting because for me, like I will never buy Call of Duty ever. But if it was on Game Pass and there was like a campaign available, because I know they've kind of ditched campaigns and then sometimes bounce back to them, and sometimes they're awful, sometimes they're okay. If there was a decent campaign available, because I know the shooting's obviously going to be fantastic. That's what they've been
Mm.
honing and crafting, and like that's what they do. So a good first person shooter campaign, if I could just jump in on Game Pass, hell yeah. But see, here's the thing. What if they get me? What if I jump in for the campaign? I'm like, yo, this feels so good. It won't, but what if? And I would assume in those boardrooms they're
That's what
thinking of
they're
people.
that's what they're hoping for. That is what they're hoping for.
Yeah, thinking of that
Absolutely.
that guy that jumps in for the campaign. It's like, yo, this is the best shooting. I love the movement. I'm gonna try to go and compete in multiplayer. Oh, I'm getting gunned down. Let me go buy some shit from the store. Oh shit, I want to have King Kong hands when I'm shooting motherfuckers. I'm gonna
Exactly.
spend $200. Yeah, that's boy oh boy. But this next quote from Satya Nadella, he says on cross-platform Xbox games, finally we are expanding our games to new platforms, bringing four of our fan favorites to Nintendo Switch and PlayStation for the first time. In fact, earlier this month, we had seven games among the top 25 on the PlayStation Store, more than any other publisher. A little flex in there at the end. So, hey,
Yep.
bitch, we run your store too.
Yep. Yep. And that's what they need to do. They need to have these flexes and stuff because they've just landed L after L, and they seem to be on the rise up. And it did make me laugh because I remember seeing a lot of PlayStation players kind of being like, we don't really want these games on the platform and stuff like that, and trying to be that gatekeeper thing. And it's just like Sea of Thieves is doing ridiculously well on PlayStation. Like it's almost given it a second life, which is really cool to see. Like it's not my thing. Played it for a few hours and it's just I don't care for that. But it's really cool to see these like multiplayer-esque co-op games get a second life and have a massive injection of players and keep it relevant for a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I think because it's funny for me personally, like whenever Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush were announced to get those physical releases for PlayStation 5, I was immediately, jumping on board that train because I definitely want to own physical copies of those games. And I played through them on Game Pass and really loved them. And I collect more for uh PlayStation. Or I should say I really loved Hi-Fi Rush. I enjoyed Pentiment, but I want to get back to it and give it like a real try. I put maybe a couple hours into it and thought it was good, but it just didn't immediately grab me. But I do find it so weird. Like, I don't know how anybody in I mean, everybody has their own opinion. I don't know how you can look at Hi-Fi Rush, specifically that game, and be like, oh no, we don't want that. Hi-Fi Rush just immediately looks so sick. Like,
No,
even
exactly.
even if you don't enjoy the game, like I know people who jumped in, jumped out, it wasn't for them because of the rhythm. Cool, fine. But like just looking at it, if you have not played it, like holy shit, it looks unlike anything that's on the market right now.
Mm, yeah, no, absolutely.
But next and final point here on this saga, Microsoft expects Xbox hardware revenue to decline again in Q4. Xbox Content Plus services will grow in the high 50s with 60 points of net impact from Activision Blizzard. Overall gaming revenue in Q4 will also grow low to mid 40s with 50 points from ABK. So,
That's actually interesting. Maybe that makes me rethink what I said a little bit. If they're predicting the hardware sales go down even further, maybe that means they'd skip this year for COD, putting it day one Game Pass. Because
yeah,
that would help shift. Like you think bundling that with a console as well could
yeah.
could help boost it. Because they're saying it's going to drop. So that number, whatever it was, what did you say, 37% negative?
Yeah, I think it was 30s. It was in the 30s for sure.
So
Let me
that's
pull
going to
it
go
up.
down even further. So that means there's no big plans of doing something like that. Does that also mean that there's no big hitters coming towards the end of the year, like an Indiana Jones? But they don't think that's going to move the needle at all?
I would
That's
wonder
kind of crazy.
because it seemed like Starfield didn't really move the needle. I wonder if they're basing a lot of their projections on Starfield because like
Mm,
Starfield is as big as you can get for a AAA new IP or just even existing IP. I don't know how much more anticipated a game can be than Bethesda's next big RPG. And if that didn't really move the needle, I wonder if they're just kind of looking at this and going, I don't think anything is going to move the needle for us in terms of hardware. And I hate to I hate to admit defeat here because boy, when Phil Spencer said that statement on Kind of Funny about, you know, big games aren't the solution or whatever he said, or like there's no 10 out of 10 game that's going to change this for the future of Xbox. There's no 10 out of 10 game that's just going to create this wealth of people jumping into the ecosystem because people have already like kind of firmly
You're so entrenched in what you already own.
totally.
You're not gonna dig them out of that. There's thousands upon thousands of dollars spent on these PlayStation accounts for digital sales. They're just not gonna move, and they know that. And this is why they pursued the route of put these games on PC. You're not gonna convince a PC player
No.
to come to Xbox. It just isn't gonna happen. So you need to be adaptable. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people were like, no, but if you had like a Last of Us or if you had like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how good it is. It really
Yeah.
doesn't.
That was me saying that. I was, but I'll admit I think I'm wrong. I think I am wrong because 2023 was a pretty solid year for Xbox. And 2024 is looking even better, and the future is looking even better. And so it's like these huge showcases where I'm like, after that 2023 showcase last year, I was like, yo, they are about to pop. They are about to balloon in hardware sales because I still kind of exist in that old school philosophy where it's like people will go where the games are. And maybe you can say, okay, Starfield didn't quite hit for what people were hoping for or whatever. I loved that damn game. But with Indiana Jones right around the corner, Hellblade right around the corner, Avowed right around the corner, and still not really seeing that increase, but maybe it is people waiting for that
I don't know
yeah, I
about
don't
that.
think so either.
The thing that springs to mind as well is, and maybe you completely disagree with this. What I think about is like the early 2000s, people were a lot more willing to part with their collections. If something was really, really appealing and they were on like a hot streak, you'd be like, okay, I'll sell this and sell my client, get this. This is amazing and stuff like that. Not only do we see a lot less games being sold, like people collect a lot more now, it feels, because we've seen the trend of gaming as if you don't, you pay a hell hefty sum down the
Yeah.
road by not doing that. But also with the shift of so many things being digital, you can't sell the collection even if you wanted to. So you feel even more obligated to stay in that ecosystem. You can't just be like, okay, well, I'll just take all these games off the shelf and sell them and then buy a bunch of cool other first party games on the other system and give that a go. And then I can always sell that and get the other. Like, there's no trading.
Yeah, it's so
It's
funny
so
because
harder.
yeah, it's funny because like in a lot of ways it's easier than ever to get your foot in the door for a new console or whatever. Like Best Buy always has this shit going on where it's like 24 months, no interest, like these crazy things where you can essentially buy a $600, console, and then you have 24 months to pay it off in increments and no interest accrues until the end of that 24. That's what I did with the Series X. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do that shit. And like those deals are constantly available through different sites. And so for me, it's like, no, I'm not going to sell my PlayStation. Like, I'm not going to miss out on Last of Us 3 or the next God of War, or the next Ghost of whatever. But when I saw the 2021 showcase from Xbox, I'm like, yeah, I got even, no, I take that back. Even that 2020 showcase, I was a little bit disappointed. But when I saw that 2020 showcase where, they revealed, I think it was Halo Infinite, Fable, it was there were a few others in there that like really I think that was Perfect Dark as well, which granted, all undelivered, we have no idea other than Halo
All smoke and mirrors so far.
yeah, other than Halo which came out, but um a lot of Smoke and Mirrors promises. State of Decay, I think, was in that as well. And but I was like, yo, they got shit coming because after that Xbox One generation, dude, you can take that shit. Rise and Sunset Overdrive are the only really and Quantum Break. That's really the only interesting exclusives that State of Decay to some degree. Anyways, but I jumped in. I'm like, yo, they really are they're doubling down on the games because that's the thing. It's exciting to me to have a Microsoft behind a gaming company for the possibility of like what those experiences can be with that type of money when they're going out and buying the Obsidians and the In Exiles and the Undead Labs and like, dude, these developers with a bankroll, like it had me hyped, so I jumped in. Yeah.
I think we're seeing the other end of the stick now, though, is that the bankroll isn't everything. We're seeing you give the like Obsidian and stuff, like their best work is unfortunately under crunch. And it's under crunch and under a tight budget because they're allowed to, that's them 100% doing what they want to do and not having to check a list or make a game that they have to make and stuff like that. Because I know they said they came out and was like, yeah, we wanted to make Grounded. Did you? Did you? Like
Yeah.
Obsidian, did you?
Experts in
That's
storytelling and
that's
RPG.
that's you've never done something like that before. And I get like maybe you want to do like a little side. It's so rare for that to happen. So I don't, I'm sorry, I still don't believe that statement. That feels like they would just put out whatever we have and just try and hit each genre, see if we can get like a nail on the head with it and stuff. Because it does feel like Microsoft has been doing that a lot more. Like, Rare used to make platformers and now they make live service pirate game. Could anyone have predicted that? No.
Not in a million years. Dude, do you think we'll see Everwild ever again?
I really don't know.
I don't
Because
either.
it's been so quiet, but then so was Fable for so long.
Everwild was at that damn showcase, I believe, in
Yeah.
2020. That's the last time we've seen anything about it.
And and this is what I mean. Like you can have all the budget in the world, but somehow it makes it sometimes more difficult to make a product.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's
You,
crazy to think about.
well, speaking of dumping a lot of money into some dumb shit, this I didn't include it into the roundup, but I want to talk about it with you real quick, just because I think it does kind of tie into Xbox and Microsoft's overall acquisition spree, if you will. Did you see that Embracer split up into three different
Yeah.
groups? Dude,
Yeah.
I want to quickly, I'm not gonna, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'll quickly throw this into the video just to, I'm not gonna go over everything. I'll link below a really, really good write-up from William R. Aguilar, I believe is the name, but I'll have it linked. Essentially, here is the synopsis. Uh Embracer Group split into three different companies. One is Asmodee, a board game tabletop focused company with a catalog of over 300 plus owned IP, including Ticket to Ride, Seven Wonders, Azul, Catan, Dobble, uh, whatever. Okay. Coffee Stain and Friends, including video games from developer Coffee Stain, Ghost Ship, Tar Tarsier. Is that right? The Little Nightmares developer. I never know how to pronounce that.
I think
Tarsier?
so. I think
Okay.
so.
Tuxedo Labs, THQ Nordic, Easy Brain, Deca, Crazy Labs, Cryptic, and Amplifier, with 200 plus IP, including Deep Rock Galactic, Ghost Simulator, Satisfactory, Wreckfest, Teardown, Valheim, Sudoku, Blockadoo, Jigsaw Puzzle, and licensed IP such as Star Trek Online and DD Neverwinter Online. But here we go. This is the big dog. Middle
Okay.
Earth Enterprise. Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends. I can't fucking read today. I can't speak. I can't think. Can't do anything. Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends will be the home of critically acclaimed studios, including Crystal Dynamics, Studios, Eidos Montreal, Flying Wild Hog, Tripwire, Vertigo Games, Warhorse Studios, and 4A Games. Uh, Play On, Free Mode, Dark Horse, and many other businesses. Notable IP include The Lord of the Rings, Tomb Raider, Dead Island, Killing Floor, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Metro, and more.
And
I
no
don't think
mention of Deus Ex.
I was just
Wah,
about to say
wah, wah.
I don't think they threw Deus Ex in there, but that would be included. Um,
I don't
yeah,
think they want to touch that franchise, unfortunately.
but just tying all of this together, talking about Xbox, I find this fascinating to split into three different companies, making it, I would assume, much easier for an acquisition target to not really draw any monopoly red flags because, like, you can't fucking acquire Embracer. You know what I mean? Embracing Embracer. You're
Yeah.
gonna, that's a, I, we'll
It's
have the,
them it's them dividing up the lowest to highest assets in free packages and also allowing them to kind of break that. Maybe that's how they're pooling their money as well. Because of the way you've just worded the stuff, that first group sounds very, very indie, low
yeah.
budget, double A for the middle, and then their triple A studios in the right. So it seems like that's how they'll be pooling the money and divvying it up. But
Well,
from an acquisition standpoint, no, absolutely, because there's going to be nobody that's going to swoop in and buy Embracer in one go. They're
no.
just too big. They're too bloated. So they need to divide up, make these companies so that if they continue on this ridiculous downward spiral that they're in right now, they can sell off a bunch and make a little bit of money and try and buffer the damage a little bit.
Well, and I don't want to, you know, I'm never a fan of huge acquisitions in general, but when you look at this Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends team, and I should say, in this case, I probably would be in favor of an acquisition because obviously what's going on under the Embracer umbrella is just chaos, man. Like, I can't imagine those developers have really any feeling of security or safety while going out and pursuing their projects. So I'm not necessarily anti-acquisition in this case. And also, making it to where uh it's not going to be this 70 billion. I mean, listen, talking about if X or Microsoft wanted to buy Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends, you're talking about, I would assume, $20 billion at least, because the Lord of the Rings IP is in there. Um, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal. But how I'm looking at this, you get Crystal Dynamics. Okay, Microsoft is already working with them on Perfect Dark. They're pretty much developing Perfect Dark for the initiative. Or yeah, the initiative. Um, and then you have Eidos Montreal. You grab Eidos Montreal, you pretty much have a monopoly on the Western RPG market. Deus Ex in the mix, and then Crystal Dynamics. You get well, I guess you're already making your or you're making your Uncharted with your Indiana Jones, but you got Tomb Raider thrown in there. You got Legacy of Kain thrown in there. All those classic titles coming to Game Pass. Flying Wild Hog. If you need some sort of support on Gears of War after Gears of War 6, you want to do a little spin-off story. Flying Wild Hog could absolutely crush that shit. Tripwire, the Maneater games, like supposedly those things did stupid numbers. That first Maneater game, supposedly it sold way more than they were ever expecting, which a shark RPG, I guess it probably should. That's super unique and interesting. And then you go in to fucking Kingdom Come Deliverance. I'm seeing people talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance in a way that it just blows my mind. Where I've seen so many people be like, yeah, this is my most anticipated game of the year, bar none. And it's getting real traction. I think that is a franchise that's right there on the cusp of becoming something like monolithic. So this being, shrunk up to where you have kind of all of your premier shit into this Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends package, I mean, listen, it's going to be billions of dollars to acquire this, but I I don't know. I just think it's an interesting look at the situation because they of course couldn't acquire the entire Embracer catalog. But this specifically, like I don't know if there's enough in here that would really raise any red flags for the CMA. Like I don't know if it would be a repeat of the ABK thing where, it's a monopoly or it's a cloud monopoly or it's a fucking IP
No,
monopoly.
the reason the Activision Blizzard thing was drug out so much is because there's so much live service element there. There's so much sustainable revenue. Everything is online dependent, which ties into the cloud stuff and all that. Um, but I don't know if anyone would touch it. That's the thing. Like that you're seeing Xbox, they have tons of projects in the work, and they've already dumped a lot. I know they have what people think is like, you know, bottomless pockets that just go out and stuff. But every time they make an acquisition, the stock, it plummets and stuff because people aren't sure. Then it gets wary, and then they start rising again. And Sony apps, I don't think Sony would be touching any of these IPs. It's very rare for Sony to go out and buy something like period. They have to be like deeply entrenched with them for a very long time and have very deep roots and stuff like that. And obviously Nintendo's not going to be buying. I don't, and nobody wanted to touch the IP years ago when they were on the market for that dirt cheap price. So I don't think you're going to go out and buy them for the even more premium price now. Because what was it that they got the Square Enix things for? Is like
Oh,
500,
$300 million.
yeah, something disgusting.
Crazy.
And I think that's because all of these big platforms looked at it and was like, these are so badly run. They they require so much money to get not as much back as what you'd be putting in for that much effort. There's no point in touching it. Would take so much time reforming these things. It's not worth the effort, even if it does have them big, well-known established IPs and stuff. It just would take so much.
I honestly don't know. I think that was just a really weird time because Microsoft was tied up in the litigation with ABK. So it's like, dude, we can't draw any more attention to us. And then PlayStation had just bought Bungie, if I'm not mistaken. So or Sony had just bought Bungie.
Yeah.
That's the thing that like Sony is not operating with that type of money. They're not operating with Microsoft type money. They can't go out and make, multiple close to billion-dollar acquisitions per year. I think they paid 3 billion for Bungie, somewhere in that range. That's a chunk. That's a
And it
chunk of
doesn't seem
change
to be
for
working out all
oh
too well for them at the moment.
at all. I think that Embracer got in like literally at the perfect time when there really weren't that many. I mean, obviously you have your 10 cents always floating around. You have, you have other entities out there. Amazon flirts with the game space a little bit, but like that's the thing about this in specific, where if they were to sell off this fucking Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends, horrible name, if they were able to, well, I can't say shit. The name of the show is unnecessary rambling. But if they were to if they were to sell off Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends, that's you're literally only talking about Microsoft and Tencent and Amazon. Like they could purchase this. I would have to imagine you're talking about $20 billion, somewhere in that range. If the Lord of the Rings IP, like if the entirety
So
of
you're, so
that,
you're talking about that entire division that they've just created. They'd have to sell it all in one thing, not
no,
even
no,
just
no, no, no.
individually. Okay, that's what was like going through my head. I was like, there's no one that's going to swoop in and do that. They'd have to cherry pick studios out of that grouping.
But what I'm wondering is, I don't think you would have to do that, but I'm wondering if Embracer wants someone to do that. If Embracer wants a Tencent or a Microsoft to come in and buy the entire
Yeah.
thing on a fire sale to just get all of it gone to recoup as much as you can as quick as you can. That's why
Oh,
I'm wondering.
yeah, that's absolutely what they would want. They're very deep in the mud at the moment. But
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to do that. maybe the closest probably would be like a 10 cent, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, just but yeah, no, I think that they could definitely sell off these studios individually. And if I'm Microsoft, I'm looking at Eidos Montreal, I'm looking at Flying Wild Hog, I'm looking at Crystal Dynamics. Um yeah, Warhorse, of course. 4A. I didn't even mention the Metro games. Why am I not able to speak? But yeah, dude, this is very, very interesting. Gonna be really something to keep your eye on out there because unfortunately, under that Embracer umbrella is a lot of high quality legacy IP that we don't want to see die off. So I'm usually never in favor of acquisition, but we're long past that phase at this point with all these companies being acquired by Embracer. We just need them to get the fuck away from Embracer. So Microsoft, they seem to be at this point, I would say the best steward for, you know, I should say in that company of just like wealthiest trillion-dollar companies on the planet, that
Yeah,
seems to be the
ability to
best.
do so. Yeah.
Yeah, that would seem to be the best direction. So, hey, we shall see. But speaking of more and more Xbox shit, it's actually a pretty packed Xbox centric week this week. Xbox always in the news, always in the damn news. Got a lot of interesting shit going on pretty regularly. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is now officially available on Game Pass, coming to you via EA Play. It's available right now. So, kind of anybody who chose to wait this one out and didn't jump in day one, you're sitting pretty because the best version of the game with all the 60 FPS patches and all of the bugs cleaned out, all that shit, it is available for you now on Game Pass, my game of the year for 2023. I'm pumped that more people are going to jump into this thing, check this thing out. I hope Microsoft paid handsomely for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I hope that extra ballooning budget, because we saw a fucking crazy jump from Fallen Order to Jedi Survivor just in terms of scope, scale, cinematics. I hope we get another crazy jump, and if Microsoft will continue to fund that along the way, I will happily take it. A good year gap between release to Game Pass, and then a nice $100 million in there to pad the pockets. Let's let's get it, dude. I can't wait to see that next game.
It's a good get and a nice a nice release in the lull of releases at the moment for those that didn't jump in.
Totally. Absolutely. Not a ton to say there. Another Crab's Treasure also
Hmm.
dropping on Game Pass. So it's actually a really, really good week for Game Pass this week. So for
That
all of
Ayuden game also dropped, didn't it, recently?
yep, good point. It did as well.
So a nice trickle of releases. I'm trying to think if anything else also come out.
I know
I
that
can't think of any more.
RE3 was recently added on there. I know that NBA 2K and Madden were recently added on there. So yeah, they got that Botany Manor game. People are really seeming to enjoy that. Was added on there. That's like a first person puzzle adventure game. The Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the only Tomb Raider game I have left in the rebooted trilogy to finish. So I might actually end up jumping into that on Game Pass. That was recently added in there. And yeah, so it's actually a really good time for
Ah, and Harold Halibut. How could we forget?
yep,
Good
Harold
old
Halibut.
Harold Halibut.
Not my favorite game in the world, but it's a good solid 6 out of 10. Not an awful game by any stretch of the imagination. I guess while we're doing all our Xbox news, let's go ahead and skip to, I think, the last bit of Xbox news here. Um, ID at Xbox is on the way. Xbox's Indie Showcase. This will be premiering April 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And the big quote here, this is coming from Wario64 over on Twitter. On top of epic trailers, fresh gameplay, and new reveals, the show will feature new details on upcoming games like Dungeons of Hinterberg, 33 Immortals, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, and many others, and he was pulling that from the what is it, the Xbox Wire? Yeah, the Xbox Wire. So shout out to the ID at Xbox Showcase. This is always one that kind of, sometimes it can be really, really interesting. It's that's the thing with indies. It's often a mixed bag. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're going to get some heavy hitters. It's like, holy shit, I've never seen anything that looked like that before. And then other times it's like, oh shit, I've seen 800 games in the last week that look just like that.
You'll always land two, I think, is usually the rule of thumb. Last year's one, because this is obviously a repeating showcase. Last year gave us Sea of Stars and Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Oh,
as like
nice.
as a first view, I believe, at that showcase, which, they're two pretty big games for the indie space and stuff like that. So I'm sure we can expect a couple of brand new reveals
You know what
to
I
do
was
something
thinking?
for somebody. What's that?
Yeah. I was thinking that Annapurna Blade Runner game. We haven't seen anything on that since it was first shown off. And I know this might be a little bit more double A than indie. So, but it's Annapurna, and Xbox and Annapurna are like fucking, thick as thieves. Um, and they also, I believe that they have that other Annapurna game coming out this year to Game Pass, the Met game, Bounty, Bounty Star. That's this like farming sim mech game, third person
Yeah,
action
they're always
adventure.
doing something weird at Annapurna, always shaking up what we'd
Absolutely.
expect.
And that's a Game Pass title as well. So, I'm curious. I'm thinking about the Game Pass games, like we have Still Wakes the Deep coming this year to Game Pass. We have that cat, the stray at home. We have
Straight
the
at home game. Yep.
Little Kitty Big City. Uh the Banner Saga team, their next game, the Towerborn, that's supposed to be coming to Game Pass this year. You would think Flight Sim's probably too big to be at this showcase, I would assume. But it's like
I mean,
the
they'll always add in something from their own team, I think, as well.
the only thing like Flight Sim, the name of it is Flight Sim 2024. So I mean, I guess you could just change it to 2025 if it needs to be delayed, but like I would kind of think that's coming pretty soon because the back
Yeah.
half of Xbox's year is full. Indiana Jones and Avowed, and yeah, so I don't know. There's some interesting shit that could pop up here. Is there anything Dungeons of Hinterberg, 33 Immortals, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, any of that really piquing your interest? That Dungeons of Hinterberg game looked kind of interesting.
Yeah, a few of the games that announced look a little bit like they might catch the attention, but I don't know about you, it feels like there's been so many showcases already this year,
I love it.
more so than previous years.
Yeah.
It's like we like a t-shirt cannon just constantly being fired. It's like Jesus Christ.
Dude, we should do an award show for the showcases, like for the summer showcases. Cause like I remember back in the day always watching like the different podcasts, they would do E3 awards. And even though we don't have an E3, we kind of essentially do. We're gonna get showcases galore. We're gonna get a summer, obviously Summer Game Fest. We're probably going to get a Summer Future Game Show. Probably going to get obviously a Ubisoft event, probably a PlayStation event, definitely an Xbox event. Like we should do some sort of figure out some way to do a fun like give out awards to the best games revealed and the best showcases and like I don't know, make it some kind of fun little competition.
Yeah, pit them against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, But yeah, I'm actually kind of curious about this Don't Nod title, the Lost Record, Lost Record, Bloom and Rage. It looked just like Life is Strange when it was revealed at the Game Awards, even though Don't Nod said they were moving on from Life is Strange to continue making games that look like Life is Strange. But I love those style of games, so I will.
Yeah, it's it's hard to move on. Stuff like that. You hear that all the time where we'll move on and then they they kind of make the same thing like Bungie and stuff. being like, "Yeah, we're done with Halo," and then they go and make Destiny. It's like, oh, okay, it's like very, very similar, guys. I don't
Absolutely.
know. I'm more, for me personally, I'm much more interested in Don't Nod's direction with whoever's doing the vampire games and stuff, because it's obviously they have to be different teams and stuff because they're obviously working
Yeah.
on projects simultaneously. Whoever that team is, that portion of Don't Nod absolutely appeals much more to me with Vampire and Banishers and stuff like that. Give me more of that.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, Banishers, that felt like it was in a kind of rarefied air in terms of double A that really close to feeling triple A, which I imagine wasn't cheap, but I also imagine it wasn't like 100+ million dollar
No,
budget.
no, no, no,
So
no. It would have been on a very strict and tight budget, and they're just very talented at stretching it as far as they possibly can.
yeah, I hope they can make more stuff in that vein. I hope it did well enough to grant them a sequel. Not a sequel. I don't really need a sequel. I just hope it granted them the freedom
To
to, which would be
continue
hard.
that style of game. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I guess it'd be kind of hard to make a sequel anyway. But games of that ilk, I hope to see more of. But staying in Xbox territory, kind of, because Xbox seems to have the marketing rights to Metaphor Refantazio. And we got some good information, a big old showcase, a juggernaut. And I actually watched the whole thing and I was like genuinely captivated by this like 25-minute showcase. Um, Releasing October 11th, 2024. Loon, what do you think about that? Metaphor Refant, we're talking about P3, from Persona 3 to Persona 5. We're talking about the A team here, working on a new IP releasing this year. Are we looking at a game of the year contender?
Ooh.
I think we
I'm
might have
I'm
slept
I'm
on this.
I'm not sure. The thing is that you said that you watched the showcase and you were really invested in stuff like that. Do you know what this feels like to me?
What's up?
It feels like if we would have had the conversation of when Judgment was being announced
Yeah.
and how you're a hell of a lot more hot on that, whereas I would have been like, no, I would have wanted a Yakuza game.
Right.
I think I'm in that boat. This feels like you being able to unshackle and be like, holy shit, I can finally like get into like a series of like that of like a Persona, but not have to play the Persona games and not have to play Shin Megami Tensei, and you can just dip in here as like a stop and see if you like it.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be what a lot of people are going to do. Um,
Did you
I
see
mean, I'm
this?
interested in it, but the thing that baffled me is the amount of things that they listed that are bullet pointed down, and just the crazy shift of stuff, like how it says here, like real time attacking and dodging.
Yes.
So low level enemies you fight in real time, and then the harder level enemies you fight in turn based. Like what?
Dude.
That's crazy to me.
And I don't know if you heard it in the showcase, they talked about how like they're given difficulty options galore so that if essentially how my ears read it is like, okay, let me just turn down the turn-based difficulty. And I hope they have sliders. Like I want to keep the real-time difficulty at a good normal clip and then just pretty much turn off the damn turn-based shit to nothing. So like, because if you can let me really engage with some good real-time action in a game like this, hell yeah, I'm down to, because it's a commitment. You're talking about 100+ hours probably to get through this thing. So if I have a little bit more real time action, and if the story, because I don't know if more adult centric, but I don't think these characters are kids. I think they're like more adults in like this fantasy world, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yeah, I don't think there was anything like touched upon that, but it doesn't look like a school setting.
right, which I'm just not into the school setting whatsoever. I would be curious about a college setting for Persona 6. I think that'd be maybe kind of sick, but um yeah, dude, did you see you riding around on a fucking
On
sword?
a sword, yeah.
Yo! Dude,
It,
it's crazy you mentioned Judgment because Judgment, same thing, riding around on a skateboard throughout these
yeah,
open world. I
that's
guess
what I
that's
drew
Lost
the
Judgment.
yeah, that's what I drew I was like, because you put it down, and I was like, I'm wondering why are you wanting to talk about this? This seems very strange, and it's just like you seem to be like, this seems to be captivating you a hell of a lot more than I expected.
This art style is just so nasty. And I know that the Persona art's it's just a next level art design across the board, art direction across the board. But man, these enemies are so fucking dope looking and just I don't know, a lot of that stuff that was shown off at this showcase really got me. One thing I will say, did you see the collector's edition?
I didn't.
It's like
What?
$150. But what's that?
Um,
What's that? Oh, nothing. That's right. Okay. As always. It's
yeah,
crazy the selective
yeah.
outrage, man.
No, that's why I didn't care about the pricing all that much. It's just what you're used to now with like the dude Persona 3 Reload come out. Like I think you can see it ever so slightly in that top right on
Yeah,
that very top shelf.
I
Dude,
do.
that was 180. I paid that. It's what you have. What it's worth to you.
Yeah.
And if it's not worth it to you, just buy the standard game.
Well, and it's like, yo, what the hell? Where I get it. Star Wars is a huge IP. Ubisoft is just like a generationally hated company. We're talking about kids whose parents hate Ubisoft. Now the kids hate Ubisoft. Like this is generations of hatred. But so, but the inconsistencies are wild. It's the same thing essentially. I will say to Atlas's credit, they do pack in more physical goods, but it's not anything crazy in those pack-ins. And they're the same price Outlaws. And it's like Atlas, I don't hear really any complaints. When Ubisoft did it, it set the world on fire.
Yeah, it's just the problem of being mainstream, isn't it?
I guess.
With
Yeah.
with Atlas, it's a turn-based JRPG. You're not gonna see like a COD fan complain about it because they're never gonna pick that up. They're
Yeah,
never
you're
gonna
not
touch it.
wrong.
They don't even know it exists. Whereas they know what Star Wars is. They look at that and they're like, 130, and it's just like, okay, well, you don't need to pay that if you don't want it. All
Yeah.
it is a Jabba the Hutt mission, guys. Just working for a fat slug, you know.
But
But the thing as well, what I'd like to like reinforce, it's Star Wars for Christ's sake. Of course they're gonna milk it for every single penny they can. Like what were you expecting? Even if this wasn't Ubisoft touching it, any open world setting that they could just milk it dry, they would have done that with any of them, whoever made the game.
yeah. Well, dude, I
It
I
just
got
had
it.
to be Ubi.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong, man. You're not wrong at all. Um, I want to shout out this German Strands on Twitter. This is what I'm pulling from here. I'm gonna read off some of these bullet points, see if anything really catches you. Persona composer working on this with a new style, a new slant to the music. Neon Genesis mech designer. Can't even say I'm really sure what that means. A lot of work went into menus, new battle
That
system.
yeah, that made me laugh. They had to point that out. It was like, okay, guys.
Yeah, I will say their UI is just so filthy, man. It's so good. Like the way that everything about like even from the menus to the way that like it's laid out on screen with your party members, there's just
Mm.
such a flair to how this thing looks. But um, like you mentioned earlier, real-time attacking and dodging, low-level enemies you can fight with real-time battle, harder enemies you fight in turn-based, not open world, but massive. So that to me, like I'm not a Persona guy. Tell me what is this? Is this something
Persona
new?
5. No. Persona 5, I don't think you can count that as open world. It was probably the same as that description. Like you'd have load areas which were pretty big, and then you'd take like the subway to go to another area and stuff. I'm sure it'll probably be a little bit bigger due to the change of the game and the way that they're doing it, and being able to ride on your sword and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think that it's not going to be like an Elder Scrolls open world.
This here is interesting. Job system is called archetypes. Gain followers for archetypes, massive diversity of jobs. So, what do you think about that?
Um, I'm a really big fan of the job system and like JRPGs and stuff, and being able to switch. And when it says like gain followers for archetypes, because it's like influenced by obviously Persona and stuff. Persona, you're well in Shin Megami Tensei, your whole party is like the enemies that you fight. It's like Pokemon, you like capture them and stuff. So if that can like play a part, if you're able to capture stuff, that'd be really cool and interesting, and incorporate that into a job system.
Yeah. It says here main and side dungeons, more dungeons than any previous Atlas title. So, loading up on the
Mm.
dungeons and last thing it says is surprising twist and then talks about the pre-order that's available now. So, yeah, man, I think I might be jumping into damn metaphor. The only thing with metaphor, I don't want to like commit to it rock solid, like there's no possible way I won't play it because we talked about earlier. Dragon Age, Assassin's Creed, uh, Avowed. Didn't even think about that one. Indiana Jones. You know, if it launches, like if Greedfall somehow comes out, those games I will prioritize over
Yep.
Metaphor. But if Metaphor has that October window all to itself, October 11th, that little window all to itself, and if I can go in and then make it to where I don't have to overly think about the turn-based shit and play more real-time action, sheesh, I might be
It's
jumping in.
it's day one Game Pass, right?
Dude,
Or is
I
it not?
I thought so as well, and then when I went to look it up, I couldn't find that. I'm gonna look
Because
one more
that's what
time.
kind of they obviously have the marketing rights, is what it seems like. But I've not seen it on like the coming soon tab in Game Pass, and I haven't really seen that mentioned. You'd think that that would have been one of the bullet points to try and.
It would definitely be. And right here on the Xbox where it says check out the first Metaphor Refantazio gameplay. Metaphor
Yeah.
Refantazio will launch on October 11th, 2024 on Xbox Series X, S, Windows, PC. And it says physical pre-orders are open now, so nothing about Game Pass at all. So I think I might have been wrong about that. It's not coming to Game Pass.
I That's not going to do anything on Xbox now.
You don't think people will buy it?
No,
Yeah,
no. No, it's because Shin Megami Tensei is Game Pass, is it not?
I think so.
So that's two Atlas titles that they brought with Persona and SMT. So they didn't want to triple dip on not to kind of like take the wind out of its sails, but they're three basically identical games. So it makes
Ash?
a little bit of sense.
I don't think SMT5 is coming to Game Pass.
Oh, is it not?
I do not think so.
Oh my God.
I do not think so. Everything
Look
I'm
at us
seeing,
getting it all wrong.
hey, that's what I like I said, man. Unfortunately this week, especially this back half of the week has been fucking chaos for me. So I haven't been able to really do as much preparation as I would like, but I do not think it's on Game Pass.
This is the problem with like heavily marketing on your system though. When you this whole new subscription based, it sends very mixed signals because then people start drawing conclusions. And rightly so, like you said, like metaphor is being heavily advertised by them, so you would just think, okay, well that's going to be a Game Pass title then. So
Yeah.
that's just very bizarre.
Listen, I can't lie. This shit looks excellent. It legitimately looks excellent. And if here's the thing, if it comes out and if it doesn't come out around some other juggernauts and it's less than like 70 hours, I'm probably jumping in. I'm probably gonna jump into that thing because I really want to. I want to vibe with an Atlas game, and I don't like younger characters in games. They just annoy the shit out of me. The tone of their voice, I can't take the tone of those voices, man. That high pitched bullshit. There, a game I really loved that I could not. I just couldn't do was what the hell was it? Suda 51 game. Uh, damn, totally blanking on it.
Killer is dead.
Killer is dead. Bingo. There was a couple characters in there with that crazy high pitched voice. I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. So October
I'll pat
11th.
myself on the back for that.
Yeah,
Pulling that out of the hat.
that is a very good pull. October 11th, Metaphor Refantazio will be available for you all. And now, fighting in the blue corner. Um, let's see. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Hexe. We have a exclusive reveal coming to us from Insider Gaming. They got the exclusive deets over there on their website. And obviously I will have that linked. But I just want to read this um because there's actually some interesting shit on here. It says Insider Gaming understands that the game is still in a relatively early stage of development and is expected to be released in 2026 on the Infinity platform. Hexe is understood to be a more linear experience compared to its predecessors, with some elements of open world exploration, somewhat akin to some of the earlier Assassin's Creed games. As already reported by Insider Gaming, Hexe is poised to have a single female protagonist currently named Elsa, who has some supernatural abilities. While details on all of her abilities are unclear, footage sent to Insider Gaming under the condition that it not go public shows off one of these abilities. In the footage, Elsa is seemingly being hunted by 16th century German soldiers. They have an image of what the soldiers look like, and uses a spell to possess a nearby cat. The player then controls the cat and uses it to distract the soldiers by knocking over a glass bottle, which smashes on the ground and diverts the soldiers' attention. The gameplay provided to Insider Gaming depicts a dark and gloomy setting in the cobbled streets of the city. Sources are also outlining that the plan is to have a fear system in the game inspired by the Assassin's Creed Syndicate Jack the Ripper DLC. While the exact details of the system are unknown, it isn't difficult to see how this system, or at least a version of it, can be easily implemented into Hexe. The 16th century witch trials saw up to 80,000 suspected witches executed between 1500 and 1660. So, some form of fear system makes sense for the setting, says Insider Gaming. A lot of details there, Loon. What catches your ear?
I'm all for it. I think I messaged you and said that, I was probably gonna like have a mild rant about this. I'm so done with people spouting shit about Assassin's Creed and being so unbelievably wrong. Like, it really, really annoys me when, like, it's one thing saying go back to Assassin's Creed 1 for like a game design. That's one thing, sure. Yes, they've moved away from that. But the people that sit there and spout about like supernatural abilities and all this and the magic, and it's been in every single game. You just didn't play it long enough, or you just didn't pay attention. Like, it's been there since day one. You play Assassin's Creed 1, you find that apple and it's mind controlling people and everything. It's been there the whole time. So to see people sit there and groan about, um, oh, she's possessing a cat and blah blah blah. These are elements that have been in so many other entries. Like you play in Origins as Bayek. You click up on the D-pad. You view the eyes through his eagle as the scouting thing. and that's tied into the lore of the stuff. They're able to see through the animal's eyes because that's who they have a connection with and stuff like that. So this is that these things add to the story and fit perfectly. It's just the thing of hating on Ubisoft for hating on Ubisoft. It
It
feels like, but
is it's so wild, man. It is so wild. Um, so the thing that really I love the idea of Hexe being a more linear experience,
yeah,
with mild open world exploration, like they said, somewhat akin to the earlier Assassin's Creed games. And dude, to think about horror Assassin's Creed, that is one angle that I think is a totally untapped market of mildly open world horror games like Days Gone, Evil Within. That's about it?
they've they mentioned the Jack the Ripper DLC. That was really good in
Was it?
Syndicate. It was really good for what it was because Syndicate was kind of people getting at the end of like their tether, as it were, with the original design of an Assassin's Creed game. That was a really nice sending off. Like it was brutal and it had horror elements, like you said. You were playing as Jack the Ripper in parts.
Oh wow.
And you had these like mystical abilities and stuff like screaming and making people freak out and kill the, like you're fighting people and he's screaming at the top of his lungs. It scares the guy and it causes him to like fight his ally and stuff like that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude.
So incorporating stuff like that and like again, maybe I'm in the minority. Dude, Odyssey was so much fun when they seriously lent into the more crazy abilities and just uncuff like that. It was fun. I don't care about how historically accurate and everything because they've always been very loose with that. All it is a setting. It's still the
Yeah,
Assassin's Creed universe. It's just using a historical time period as a backdrop as a setting. It should never be the thing at the front, and that's what people seem to get completely wrong and misread about the series.
bro. I think Odyssey is like one of the best open world games ever. Dude, when you're kicking motherfuckers off of like cliffs, you're Spartan kicking people off of
Yeah.
cliffs, and dude, it's so fun. That setting, yes, that's a great game. Ubisoft has made legitimately great video games, and they've had some misses. That's what big AAA publishers do. They have great games, they have misses. It is what it is. I think that this is the most appealing Assassin's Creed. I'll play Codename Red. I played Valhalla. I couldn't click with that, but this one, Hexe, I played Mirage. Couldn't click with that. So don't get me wrong. I'm not like a total Ubisoft fanboy. There's a lot of shit. I'm much more Far Cry fanboy. If and even then, I think Far Cry 6 is like a solid 6. You know what I mean? It's a 6 out of 10 game. But I just prefer Far Cry's zaniness a little bit more than Assassin's Creed. But regardless, I'm there for Hexe. This sounds
Yep.
really intriguing.
No, absolutely. And dude, Mirage would have just been so much better if it wasn't Basim as the character, man. He's just so
Right.
dry. It's uh, just nothing clicked with that. So having it in that like that size with Odyssey's like skill system and like magic, like I'm all for that. That sounds like a perfect recipe.
Well, and the thing with Bassam is like it's Valhalla lore, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's like I barely I played like I don't know 8-10 hours of Valhalla of 100+ hour
You
games. It's
only
like
needed to play 80 hours to get his story. Come on, man. That ain't that much of an investment.
it's crazy. See, I immediately out the gate with Mirage, I was coming in on kind of unequal, I was unbalanced. I wasn't quite sure. I was like, I don't know much about this character. Am I supposed to know this? Like it was just all this shit. So totally fresh, codename Red, Hexe, I am on board for both of them, as long as obviously. The one thing I will say before we move on is this Infinity platform. I don't
I don't know
know.
what that is.
So it is going to be like their live service hub where all the Assassin's Creed games live inside of this live service. I don't think it's going to be too intrusive to the overall like feel of the game. It's just going to be like you can access all of I think all of the games through this one hub, and there's some sort of connective tissue, and I'm sure you have to pay, subscribe to this tier to get this. I don't know how it's going to be rolled out. They haven't really provided much
Mm,
information on like the monetization elements. I'm sure they will be there in some form or capacity. I assume they'll have like a storefront where you can go into this, Infinity platform, I'm gonna go buy a gold earring for my new warrior, whatever the fuck the case is. But that's I can't speculate too much on it because we really don't have all the details yet. But we do know Ubisoft will nickel and dime the shit out of their player base. So stay alert, my people.
yep. Even if the game is good, they will still sting you. As much as I enjoyed Odyssey, they still
Absolutely.
sat there ramming bundles down your throat. So,
But speaking of nickel and diming, nobody knows how to do that quite like Nintendo. And today at 6 o'clock this morning, a story was revealed. New Nintendo Switch 2 details have reportedly leaked. It's claimed that the console will come with Joy-Con controllers that attach magnetically and that it will work with current Switch Pro controller. So this is coming from VGC. I read over this article very quickly while I shouldn't say while I was driving, while I was parked. I wasn't driving. I was parked, but I wasn't in a good mental space to really be able to like unpack all the details here. So I'll read the article. You have something you wanted to throw in real quick, Loon?
no, I read it a little bit more, but if you're gonna read over it, then by all
Okay.
means.
Yeah, I'll quickly run through this just so my brain and hopefully the brains of the people out there, I'm sure, have already read all these details, but I'll go ahead over it. Long-running Spanish video games website Vandal claims to have received information about the console from sources at peripheral manufacturers. According to the site, Switch 2's Joy-Con controllers will attach to the console magnetically as current Joy-Cons connect to the Switch using a rail system. It's unclear if they'll be forwards compatible with the new console. The existing Switch Pro controller will work with Switch 2, it's claimed. It's worth noting that prior to Switch OLED, the reveal in 2021, Vandal accurately reported on some of the console's features, such as the inclusion of a new stand and Ethernet port. VGC reported in February that Nintendo had internally delayed the launch of its next gen console from this year to early 2025. One publishing source suggested that the delay was so that it could prepare a stronger first-party software for the console, while others have claimed the move was made to avoid potential hardware supply issues. Okay, so the rest is just kind of speculating a little bit. Actually, we'll go ahead and read. It's only two more little things. VGC also reported last summer that development kits for Switch 2 were in the hands of key partner studios. Two sources VGC spoke to at the time suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED in order to bring costs, in order to bring down costs, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. Loon, Switch 2 details are leaking, it seems. It
And
seems
it's
we're.
all that I expected. Other than the magnetic thing, I don't really obviously like I don't think anybody's gonna be predicting that, but it's I had a sneaking suspicion that they would roll back the quality of the screen to keep the prices down. I don't think that they were going to be using OLED moving forward as a base model because they can just refresh the model a few years in the future and put that in. But it was definitely going to be you need more memory, you need more space. Uh, so it seems like they're going down that route, and that's why they're reverting the screen. So it'll be interesting what they land at though. I don't know what's the
Yeah.
standard storage for a Switch. It was ridiculously low if I'm not mistaken, like 30 gigabytes or something crazy.
No, it's got to be more than that, right? Let's see. Switch. Are you looking it
Because
up?
I was going to look it up as well. Because
Okay, okay, go ahead.
I remember putting it Switch storage.
So I was no, you're right, 32 gigabytes.
Yeah, that's what I thought
Holy
because I
shit.
remember there was something I needed to get an expansion card for it, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I've just forked out like a ridiculous amount of money, and I can't even download a damn game. You're out of your mind." Yeah, 32 gigabytes. I thought, yeah,
All
mind
right.
blown how that
So
can launch at such a low, like Jesus Christ.
all right, let's make some predictions then. I think that'll be fun. What do you think the storage will be? What do you think the max limit for the storage will be for
What
the
what was the year this came out in?
uh
Switch. Was it
2017, correct? I think. Yeah, 2017.
2017?
I I, I got to shout this
Oh,
out before you. This is a fucking fantastic tweet from Gan Anim. I'll link it. I just saw this on the VGC post. Calling it now. It's going to be called the Nintendo Snap because of the magnetic Joy-Cons. Dude, that's a great name, the Nintendo Snap. Like that's a great kind of continuation off the Switch if they don't want to do Switch 2 because they've kind of deviated, instead of Wii 2, it's Wii U. Like
yeah.
instead
People
of
jokingly thought it was going to be the Switch as well, but they thankfully didn't go down that route. Yeah, they like their play on words.
they do.
They they they
I got to shout
they
that out
can't.
though. I never saw someone suggest the snap. The snap is a great idea. So I'll link that tweet. I gotta give people who come up with original ideas their thoughts, and then I'll steal their original ideas and just link the Twitter account. But what you think about that storage? What you thinking?
I To me, I feel it was inconceivable it launched at 32 gigabytes, regardless in 2017. Like I remember seeing that and I was like, "You're not getting flack for this." I'm looking around. I'm like, dude, the Xbox 360 at the end of its life cycle had a 500 gigabyte hard drive. What on earth is going on? So I'm sitting there in like two mindsets. It's like, do they just not care and they just go down the route of like a just doubling that so that they can say that there was an improvement, but literally give like hardly, and they just be like, oh, just buy an SD card like you did for the Switch and stuff like that. But you would hope that they would pack a punch and put, because what is it, the Steam Deck 256, I think, or something for the
Yeah, I think
lowest.
so.
256, then 500 and something, and then a terabyte.
Terabyte. Yeah.
You need to be at least hitting the lowest memory that
No
the
chance.
the Steam Deck, but you just know they won't
No
because they just
chance.
it's fucking crazy,
I'm
man.
locking in 100. I think it's going to be 100 gigabytes. I think that's going to be the official, and obviously they'll have all sorts of you buy this and fucking you can make it 400 terabytes, but 100 gigabytes is going to be the base.
I oh 64. I'll go.
Ooh.
I think they really don't care. I think they really don't care because they know people will just go out and buy micro SDs because you can get them for like 2 terabytes now. So
They're
they don't
expensive though, aren't they?
they don't care. That you think
They
Nintendo give a shit about your wallet?
very true. Well, hey, I guess we'll stay right there. How much are they really going to hit the wallet for? What is this thing going to launch at? What's the price of the Switch 2 or the Switch Snap or the Nintendo Snap? What do you think this thing is going to launch at price wise?
I need to make sure that I don't completely make a fool of myself. What was the Switch launch price?
It was 300, right?
Switch launch price was 299 in the US and 279 in the UK.
So
Has to be more than that with, inflation. So 400?
that's exactly what I was going to say. You say, okay, you're okay. 400 loon. I'm locking this in. We're returning back to this. There's always gotta be competition, Loon. Um, oh, 400 is exactly the number I was gonna say. 399, because that wouldn't, if you saw 399 the way you see 299 for the Switch, I don't think it's gonna hurt all that bad. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, $100. That makes sense.
Because if you push it to 500, you're talking, because so many families have, as we've seen many comments stating time and time again, we have three, four in a household. If you're buying them in, because you'd buy them in like groups of two, you're not going to go out and buy four at once. You probably buy them
Right.
like, here, share these around. Would you really justify 1,000? I don't think it's a lot more digestible to hit under 1,000.
Dude, I, you know what? I wonder, can they make, okay, so here's my thing. If this is just a bit of an iteration, like if this is still pretty much the Switch, just a slightly souped up version, could they get away with 350? 349.99 or whatever? I'm gonna lock in 350. I think it's stupid. I'm just taking a different number because you I think you got the
Sorry,
correct number.
I was too fast.
Yeah, 400 is correct. I think it's 100% going to be 400, but I'm going to lock in 350. If it's $500, dude, the same price as a Series X or a PS5, but value is all, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Like people will, I'm going 500. I'm going 500. Dude,
High
they
risk.
know,
You're not going to the casino tomorrow. You're going today. That's what you're getting. You're getting them bets in.
dude, I'm so bummed out I can't go to the damn casino tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going 500, Loon. I think that they are absolutely going to push that thing because you saw it with PS2. And I know we're not talking about the same company, but when companies have monolithic sales numbers, they get a bit greedy.
Yeah,
They think, oh,
they're
there's nobody.
untouchable.
Absolutely. But then I think of the Steam Deck and it's kind of sitting there as competition. I'm going 500, locking it in. I should have locked in 350, but 400 is the correct answer, I would assume. All right, Loon, final story. We can get out of the good people's hair. Shinji Mikami discusses why he left Tango Games. It's not a big story, but I saw this while scrolling the old Twitter today, and this is coming from Genki over on Twitter. Obviously, will be linked below. The Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami has finally revealed why he left Tango Gameworks and founded his new studio, Kamiya U or Kami U. Planned to leave Tango Gameworks 8 years before finally doing so, but felt the responsibility towards ongoing projects which prolonged his stay. Wants to create an environment that allows young game creators to have more opportunities to gain experience, i.e., with shorter development cycles between projects. Wants to create unique, smaller scale video games. Wants to break free from the survival horror genre. Set up a new company from zero to accomplish these goals. And yeah, and also this is the original source here. Like I said, this is broke today as well, and I've just been delayed on getting around everything. But the original source is linked in that tweet as well. Automation slash dash media.com, where the quote was pulled from. But yeah, what do you think about this, Loon? I think that plan to leave Tango 8 years before finally
Yeah.
doing so is crazy.
Do you know what? It gives me even more respect for him. I don't think I could have more respect for this guy. That just shows how much he doesn't like leaving things undone. When he left, it was things that he was tied to, and he was like, I will see it through to the end. Because you see so many times when a game gets to like the end of the cycle, and like a head will like, I'm gonna go off and pursue a different, it's in good hands. He didn't do that. He could have left Hi-Fi Rush and stuff. He saw it through to the end. He saw Ghostwire through, Evil Within 2. So he had these projects set out that he wanted to make, and he did that. So that's incredibly respectable.
And it seems like he's kind of really passed the baton on to John Johannes. as like the new lead of Tango, who was I believe the creative director of The Evil Within 2 and Hi-Fi Rush, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was like the
Yeah,
head
his pro.
honcho.
Yeah, it seems like his like little protege and allowing him to spread his wing, and that's really cool as well. He's not like an author that is. It's all about me, 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 me. Like one of the big points that they said there is that he wants to go out and make a small studio centered around younger developers. So that it's almost like he's looking around the industry and looking at how shit things are. Like, I'm sorry, that's just how it is. And he's like, I'm trying to make this a better place while I can. Get these small teams in, give them the experience, give them my knowledge, and also give them the opportunity to spread their wings as well. So
Absolutely.
that's really cool. The thing that shocks me the most is wants to move away from survival horror. Man, that's your bread and butter. That's bold. But
Absolutely.
hey, show me what you got in that creative mind.
Oh, dude, and I mean, he was behind God Hand back in the day. So I mean, which it's not horror, but it's somewhere in that vein. Killer 7 kind of somewhere in that darker vein, but still not horror. So I mean, he's definitely been outside of the horror space and had success to varying degrees. It's hard to break free from that, but I think that the what he's setting up here for a smaller studio to create small scale games, and I think kind of about, those a lot of those indie day one Game Pass games that drop, and it's just like this 3 hour thing. It's very experimental, but it's even something like Harold Halibut, as many, I have a lot of critiques and criticism for that game, but it is so unique, and it doesn't need to be 15 hours. I think that's one of the 10-15 hours. That's one of the big things that hurt it. But the idea of like, okay, let's get out, a short hike size game, something very experimental, but I want to use my knowledge to bring people in to work on it with me and then pass that knowledge along to them. Like, that's interesting to continue to get funding through Game Pass or, PlayStation, like Tales of Kenzera Zao, that was a day one PlayStation Plus game, or Dave the Diver, which I know that was under a bigger studio, but that's the thing. This dude can get funding from huge premier publishers if he really wants to, and he can still work on experimental titles. That is the leverage and the respect that he commands when he walks into a room. If he walks in and wants to do a deal for an exclusive title with Xbox or PlayStation, that deal is going to get done, kind of in that same Hideo Kojima realm, where it's
Mm,
like, yeah, it's weird as shit. You're walking around as a
but we'll take a
mailman.
stab at it and look what happened. Because if anybody else would have walked in that room to Sony and been like, I want to make a FedEx simulator where the rain ages you, they would have looked at him and been like, the hell kind of drugs are you on?
It would, yeah, it would have been thrown in the nearest locker. Just old school bullying would have
But no,
ensued.
but no, good old Kojima walks in and just says that, and you're like, yeah, no, that makes sense, of course. Why didn't we think of that?
Well, and this dude has that similar pedigree for sure. He has that similar, like, he for sure is of that ilk. He can get shit done. Um, and yeah, I'm excited for this. I can imagine that being in this, because he was under Bethesda before Microsoft. So it's constantly been, his whole career has been under huge conglomerate thumbs, which, ZeniMax not necessarily the same level of I don't know, that's a fucking big
No, that's a,
company.
that's a that's a big use of Capcom before that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the guy doesn't need money.
Oh
He's
God,
he's
no.
reached that point, and it's really cool to see this when this happens. Is when you see these creative, because like especially like with Hideo Kojima's exit, Konami really thought that they had a vice grip on him, that they could like muscle him and be like, well, you're not gonna go anywhere because you need us. And he was like, no, I don't. Like, you've given me big paychecks and everything, but do you know what I have? I have pedigree, and I can take that anywhere, and anyone will take me. And you've seen it time and time again. Koji Igarashi
Yeah.
with Castlevania. Guy was just sitting there like, "Can we make a Castlevania game? Can we make Castlevania?" Nah, nah, nah. He's like, "Well, fuck this. I gotta make my own one."
Yeah.
Goes off, does it, and it. I'm sorry that I really, really like Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. That's better than any Castlevania game, in my opinion, hands down. And this is what happens when you get the person that is the heart of the series and doesn't have to answer to any higher ups. You see these types of things. So I'm all for this. Whatever he puts out, I'm going to be there day one.
It's cool to see this kind of era of because it used to be a lot of nameless, faceless entities. Okay, we know about Konami. Okay, we know about Capcom. Okay, we know about Blizzard. Okay, you know what I mean? And now we know about Hideo Kojima. We know about Shinji Mikami. Even on a smaller scale, Glenn Schofield was able to go and get funding for $100+ million survival horror triple A IP, new IP. I'm not saying it definitely didn't set the world on fire, but it's that was able to happen based off of
He
his
he had the
pedigree.
pull. Yeah, the same. The
Yeah,
one of the first ones, which also backfired, was Cliff Bleszinski
right.
leaving and then being like, "Look, I got this, guys." It didn't work out for him, but he was able to, what was it? Lawbreakers was his first thing that he did.
Yep.
Less said about that game, the better. And then he was somehow able to still be sitting there floating around for that weird casino battle royale thing before that finally fluttered off and died. But that just shows you like how much power that these big names have,
Yeah, for sure.
that
I
they
mean,
can demand that funding.
even Ken Levine, even though it's not necessary because he's still working under the Take Two umbrella, but like he was able to separate, start a whole new operation. Like these aren't things that just anybody gets access to. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And now, and I don't think it would even be possible if the public wasn't as aware of these creators as we are now. Because you think back to those, classic Nintendo games and the classic Konami games, like we talked about Capcom from the NES days and SNES days. We really don't know a lot about those creators in the way that we do now. And I don't know, I just think more of a spotlight that's being shown on the actual creative process. Like if Neil Druckmann wanted to go and start a new studio, I mean, look at Sven Vink with
Mm,
Larian. Like,
love him.
yeah,
Love the guy.
if Miyazaki wanted to, like, you know what I mean, which he's doing his own thing, but there are names now, and I think that's so important to establish names next to the property, not just the property. It's not just you know the next Souls. It's this guy's Souls game.
Yeah, it
It
was Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin. That was the slam bang straight away before they even named the game because it's what sells. Because public trust is so hard to gain now, and it's so easy to lose on top of that. So if you have
totally
somebody firing on all calibers constantly, you need to be
100%.
putting their name out there and getting that game out to as many people as possible.
Not a doubt about it, brother. But that is the show, my good people. We appreciate you all so much for stopping by, for tuning in today. And yeah, man. Big episode. We thought it wasn't going to be the longest of
Say that
episodes,
every single week.
but we go on I go on a 30-minute rant about fucking Adam Sandler and losing my mind, not being able to remember movies. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like, subscribe, all of that good shit if you feel so inclined to do so. And we shall be back with you all next week for another deep dive discussion into the video games. Hope y'all are having a good week. See you soon.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Make
Appreciate
sure
you,
to
Lou.
use the timestamps.
Hey, and there will be a
Screw that.
lot of them.
Screw that in. Make that
Absolutely.
make that a habit.
For sure. Yeah, there will be a lot of timestamps. Utilize those bitches efficiently because yeah, this is a long one, and I guess that's just the nature of the ramble, the nature of the ramble, baby. They're gonna be long sometimes, but appreciate you guys, and we shall see you next week. Goodbye.